Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host Rob. It's Monday night. Let's try this again. The internet gods are against us, but this is round two. This is Monday night. It's Age of Sigmar. I'm doing the whole thing again. Welcome to the show. Welcome to everyone on Twitch. Nathan, I'll say hi to you as well.
Hello again.
Because you joined me on a Monday. I'm going to say hi to everyone on the chat, like Kularu, LLV, Velatron. Very sweet to see you here. Toodles, Colonel Cabbage. You guys will notice if you are a subscriber on Twitch, which is one of the only reasons we're able to do the show, along with Patreon people, you're going to now be able to use your jet emoji.
Yeah. It's looking swish.
And Nathan, how do you feel about your pet dog is now a Twitch emoticon usable on any channel on the internet?
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Good.
But fair. Yeah.
Good. Hi, Chuckle Buddy. As you guys can see, Nathan's had a haircut. We'll recycle the joke from earlier because of a close shave with the gristle gore. Is that right, Nate?
That's right. You should see what the blisterkin did to me.
Okay. Oh, dear God. I hope you've been to the doctors. Follow up. We are using some new microphones, and as you can see from the past 30 seconds, Nathan will spin a lot. So if Nathan's audio sometimes is a bit like all over the place, there's no way, unless we get him some sort of Mariah Carey headphone that we attach to his face and make it unfiddleable, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. Datcom, thank you very much for subscribing. I hope that's I've just got to like and have a recap. There's no recap, we've just started. So I hope you guys are all enjoying yourselves. Thanks for joining us. There's loads of you here. Propagation, Scrivo, who obviously does all of our overlays. There's Jet himself, if you'd like to use the emojis. So Jet, you're an emoji. Jet!
Look at those things.
That's you on the telly.
Jet with tentacles.
Good. So if you guys join us, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about just the news from the weekend.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about the main part of today is we're going to be talking about the Age of Sigmar battle plans. So we're going to be talking about all 20 battle plans. We're going to be doing an in-depth review. We're even going to be suggesting some new game modes or tournament formats in the future, like Kingmaker.
Yeah, I saw those briefly.
Yeah?
Look pretty cool.
If you guys would like to join along with that, I'm sure John or one of our moderators in the chat, of whom there are Tomb King Tristan, the Sinise, there's a bunch of the scary fellas, along with Dude Our Day, they'll put a link to the chat so you can follow along with the pictures at home. If you're interested, we've hosted them all up for you, so that should be good.
Yeah.
Cool. So, final thing. Everyone on Patreon, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Everyone on Twitch, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. You help us do stuff we've never been able to do before, so you guys are the best. And maybe that no one in Warhammer's ever been able to do before, so, you know. I'm not saying you guys are great, but you are. So that's good. Nathan, how are you?
Good. A little bit chilly today. It's been colder, but otherwise all right. Yeah. Cheers, thank you for asking. And you?
Good. How am I? I'm good, thank you very much. I have been, as pointed out in the stream that shall not be named because it just broke a minute ago, I've been painting up this fella for Adepticon, a Vermin Lord Corruptor, There we go. I was painting it on Tuesday night with Speckles and with Chris. Well, just with Chris, and then this week Speckles is joining us. So he's all painted up, and then hopefully get the spell done for him as well. I'm going to put some chains around him and have some Chaos Dwarves kind of like holding him down because they've like owned him, sort of thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So they've enslaved him. But I'm quite chuffed with this guy. He looks pretty sweet, to be honest. It's an amazing model. The Vermalord kits are just the best. Just really fun. And I really enjoy painting him, so a really fun time.
Good.
Yeah. I've also got on my painting desk, actually, I have Shartor the Executioner. Yeah. So he's been Zenithal highlighted. That's right. Yeah. And then I'll be doing all the painting. And then I've also painted up some Bull Centaur Tauroks at the same time. Because I'd like to run the 6 Taurok list. Well, I'd like to run Shartor and 5 Bull Centaur Tauroks, which is a silly list, but a great list.
Yeah. It's not that silly. It should be fun.
No, it should be really fun.
Yeah.
It should be really fun.
Quite quick.
Do you mind if I say hello to everyone in the chat? Nath?
Hello, everyone in the chat.
Oh, I'm going to say hello to him. Hi, Dude Our Day. Thanks for subscribing for 50 bits. He says, bring back Speckles. Don't worry, he'll be back tomorrow. Barb Baconi will also be covering the Flesh Eaters FAQ. Cynthia says, Fartor. Scrivo, not sure how it happened to me. I drew one goblin and suddenly had my own show. That's true. You can always join Scrivo to learn how to do art at the weekends, where you can get some lovely pictures like we've got in the corners. Yeah. And Papa Bean, I think we had a bit of a problem with the internet as well. Maybe it's the global internet. The global worldwide internet. It'll
be that internet box wherever it is. Somebody's tripped over it.
Someone's tripped over it. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, thanks very much. Feel free to hit subscribe and like. Nath, I get to tell you something cool today. Do you want to hear something cool?
Yeah, go on then.
So two cool things. Number one, we hit 3,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Sweet.
So thanks very much. Yeah. So if anyone wants to subscribe on YouTube, thanks. 100,000 views on YouTube as well. I don't know if that's cool, but that seems cool to me.
Sounds like plenty of... That dude's been watching us a lot of times.
That's a lot, right? Yeah. And in the first 2 months this year, I told you this already, we've had 70,000 downloads on the podcast. So those podcast guys are crazy. So just thanks, because if that carries on, we'll hit 500,000 downloads by the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Lots of downloads. That guy is listening to us a lot of times.
That one guy is listening to us so many times.
On repeat all the time. In fact, he's probably got about 5 different machines with us.
Yeah, he's just like...
on loop.
So can I just say thank you to everyone who listens?
To that guy.
Yeah, to that guy. Cheers to that guy. If you're a podcast listener because you're in another part of the world or something else, we hugely appreciate it. So I want to say thank you. You guys are the best. Right, everyone in the chat, there's Datcom. Are you going to do a list rundown of Blood Tithe, Rob? Hawkeye, I was doing one and I was recording one. Nathan saw that. And then someone already did one. And I was like, well, cool. I'm not going to bother. I'm not repeating someone else's work.
Job done.
There you go. Hi, Notorious Big Sean. Oh, fucking hell. Notorious Big Sean's here.
Oh, yeah.
A Kiwi in the house. It's with 500,000 that you get 1 billion. That's right. It's with 5. Velatron's right. One day we'll hit 1 billion, Nath. 1 billion downloads.
Wow.
Think about that. You obviously won't live to make that. Because you're so old. Hi Lofthammer, hi Mr. Kapowski. Right, so Nathan, have you done any Age of Sigmar this week?
Yes, I have. Still painting my Gloomspike kits.
Yeah.
Don't think I've played any games though. No.
No?
No, don't think so.
Alright, nice.
No, if I did, I forgot about them. So they must have been shut. So sorry about that.
Hey Lee Bromley, hope you're good. So, and how's the painting going? They're very complicated models.
Yeah, I've been painting squigs, so they're quite complicated. But my scheme is pretty classic orange, so yeah, it's coming along all right.
Would you say orange is the new black?
No, I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that ever?
No.
Why wouldn't you say that?
It's a stupid phrase. Who would ever say that?
Who would ever say it?
Yeah.
It's a whole TV show, brother. Colonel Cabbage, thanks for subscribing. How did Nathan enjoy the Dwarden breakdown on last week's stat show, Nathan?
It was false news. there was something in there that wasn't Dwarden.
Oh, do you want to explain to people? Also, Ruskies, thanks for donating 569 bits, 500 for the doggo, and 69 for the boys. Do you want to explain to people why?
Well, there's no keyword Dwarden in one of those factions that you put up there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No?
No.
So it's because the Chaos Dwarves have the Darwizar keyword as a part of Dwarden, right?
Yeah, so they're not Duarden.
Because we're racially different.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Neanderthals.
We're not even... Yeah, not even a real thing.
We are a real thing.
No.
Excuse me, we're a real thing.
No, you're not.
Yeah, we've got models.
Compendium.
No, I just disagree.
Tomb Kings are more real than Dwayzar.
Dwayzar. Two Kings. There was a Two King army this weekend at the Heats, did you see?
Good.
Yeah. This is because they're coming back, I think.
As long as there were no Legion of Asgore, that's the main thing.
Thank you very much, LLV. This is cool. Did you know that Darwi is Khazalid for Duardin? It's just Duardin in another language, Nathan. That's all it is. It is. Stop giving me shit.
It's not Duardin.
Okay. All right. Fine.
There you go.
All right. Okay. So you've been playing up the Gits and it's been going well?
Yeah.
Can I ask the Twitch chat what they're all playing as well at the minute? I'd be interested to see what they're all playing. Are you decided what you're taking to Adepticon? Because we're both taking armies to Adepticon. You still haven't decided?
What on the? I'll probably take the Gits, but I haven't decided on the list. I keep looking at the Gobblapalooza.
Shut up, Adam John. Thanks for subscribing. So me and Nathan, you guys may not have heard this, and we did a show, didn't we, for just the Patreons? We did like a podcast where we had like a 45-minute row about the Gobblapalooza.
Yeah.
So Nathan wants to take the Gobblapalooza, but the thing about the Gobblapalooza is it buffs only grots, and then what Nathan wanted to do was then only take minimum grots and take loads of other stuff, therefore making the Gobblapalooza a superfluous choice. And have you reconciled those differences yet?
They're really nice models.
It doesn't sound like what your plan is to make an efficient army. What's your plan?
Have I ever made an efficient army?
Not once.
Not that I've played. I've made efficient armies that other people have played.
That's true. And you're my... No, by the way, Nathan is my #1 list tech design guy. I sent him my Chaos Dwarf list for Adepticon and he was like, I don't want to play that, which I think is a good sign. Yeah? You weren't into that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, alright.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I'm just going to see what everyone in the chat's saying. Pete's saying he's playing soft scores. We'll talk about that in a bit. Banana Timmy's doing Gloomspite because he was at Sheffield. Yeah, he's a lovely fellow.
With a squiggle-launch.
Yeah. Altboy Phil says Skaven, specifically Scryer, but going to go mixed because I need the bodies. Dave Frazier says there was a player with fake dwarfs at the Heats. Fuck you, Dave Frazier. Although, congratulations to Dave Frazier for having a thick head of top hair.
A thick head of top hair.
Yeah, so I think it's about time. I'll read through this. I think one of the things that we need to advise people if they're ever going to appear on either the Honest Wargamer stream or any live stream for Warhammer tournaments is you're going to have to either wear a hat or be quite okay with the top of your dome being discussed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, some people don't like the top of their head being.
Well, some people don't realise they're thinning until they go on the live stream. They're like, "Oh, I'm thinning now, and I never knew." But Dave Frazier wasn't. He had a full.
He was lush on top.
He also on the live stream had a Rogue Idol of Gork batter a Star Drake, Nath.
Yeah. No other way it should be.
Are you not happy about that?
Of course I'm happy, but that's standard. That's the way it should always be.
That's always happened.
Silly Star Dragons.
LLV says I like Godpalooza and the Grot Horde. Grobdig says Beast of Chaos and Brayherd he's doing. Captain Andrew's doing Pestilence. Hypnocracken, Godpalooza, more like Garbage Palooza. Wow. Ooh, Hypnocracken, them's fighting words. Loftheimer's painting his trolls, and he's got a lot of them.
Good man.
Papine, I'm in a hobby slump, unsure what I want to start. Papine, you paint great stuff. Positive Victim thinks my list needs Scar Bloodwrath. So this week, if you're going to Blood Tithe, find me. I've already decided what's happening this Friday when I'm at Blood Tithe. So Blood Tithe Tea Tournament this weekend, organised by War Boss Wilson on Twitter, but Mark. I'm really excited. I'm going to go and interview all the captains, all the players and stuff. But I'm going to do, the first thing that's happening is I'm bringing an army with me.
Yeah.
And I'm putting it on the tabletop and I'm making Darren Watson show me how to use Scar Bloodwrath. Because I keep saying he's too slow, I can't make him work. And Darren's like, you're just not playing him well enough. Yeah. Which is, you know, a fair statement. Yeah. No one ever wants to hear it, but I'm willing to learn. So I'm literally just going to get him on the tabletop like, no. And I imagine it's going to turn into a bit of a crap. I'm basically going to ask all the guys at Blood Tithe to be like, let's make this work as well as possible, which will be quite fun. You know, instead of like playing a game, just like talking shit about like you moving units around.
Okay.
That's going to be quite funny. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
Which is kind of what we're going to do about some endless spells at some point. And we're going to film it. Mr. Capash says, I'm not paying anything at the moment. It's painting contest season for me. Oh, so serious. Nice t-shirt, Nathan, says Grecors.
Oh. Good. Thank you.
You can do that now as well. Fellatron's painting FEC, not because they're strong, not interested in critical, rather because painting a bunch of naked dead dudes can be done quite quickly. Also, because of his French heritage. Yeah, he surely is a little bit interested in their kind of heraldic powers, right? Sure.
We'll go with that.
You don't think
they're just bent?
I don't think that's why he's painting them, but that's fine. Hookapid says, wear a top hat or be obscenely tall.
Yeah.
If you're going to be on the
or have a tattoo on your head.
Well, that's why I painted I've cut my hair so I appear smoother on the stream. And then Duality of Death saying it now, Speckles is going to win Blood Tithe, which is interesting as it's a team tournament. So how he'll win it on his own. Also, watching Speckles play on the stream is the most fun I've ever had because he's so rubbish at Warhammer. Yeah.
So rude.
And also watching both of the commentary team, the two commentators talking about his game, I was like, nah, he's not doing that because he's thinking it. He's doing that because he is rubbish.
Wow. Harsh, but probably fair. Whoops.
Right, thanks everyone for joining us. So let's get on to the news. Yeah. So before the weekend happened, where we saw a live stream tournament at Warhammer World of some pretty high profile match play Age of Sigmar, one of the things that we saw happen was we saw the... Come on, Rob, keep it together. We saw an enlightening FAQ from Games Workshop about the Flesh Eater Cores and the Skaven as well. The Skaven as well. Some of the things from the Skaven books still haven't been 100% answered, but that's okay. That happens. Yeah, and we'll just roll with the punches. But the Flesh Eater Cores one that caught my eye, and it may have skipped your notice, Nath, because it's a bit of a... I tell you what, it's interesting. Is that you can have Terrorgeists as battle line.
Yeah.
And if you have them as battle line, they don't count as behemoths, meaning, because for Age of Sigmar, since the very first General's Handbook, you can only have 4 behemoths, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, only 4 war machines, which is why you've only ever been able to field 4 gyrocopters.
Yeah, gyrobombers.
Or gyrobombers. Are the gyrocopters not war machines?
No, they are as well, but I've got gyrobombers.
No, gyrobombers or gyrocopters.
Yeah.
And obviously you've been super upset about that.
Very upset.
Very upset about that. So here's hoping, Dwardin Battletome, gyrocopters and gyrobombers battle line.
And then don't count as behemoths. Or war machines. Sure.
Or war machines. Well, they don't count as... So what this effectively meant for the first time, if you guys are out there listening and don't 100% understand what that means, it means for the first time you're going to be able to take more than 4 monsters. So you have been able to do that before by taking 4 monsters and summoning a 5th monster. Yeah. But this you can start with these monsters on the tabletop. It also FAQ'd that you can go twice with the command ability and being able to attack twice, which is pretty scary. So none of the things that I think some people have thought is quite strong, realistically. So what did you make of that, being able to hear 6 dragons? Because you can take 6 dragons.
You can actually take 7. I saw a list of 7.
You take 7 dragons. I mean, that's pretty cool.
1 hero one, and then loads of the budget dudes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess it's pretty... I mean, because their Terrorgeist is pretty good. I mean, not great for my army, because it's lots more screams, which my army doesn't like.
No, they do not. With
the low bravery. But, yeah. I can't imagine it'd be the most competitive, because you still need things to claim objectives.
Yeah, so I think
normally want at least an Arc Regent as well, so you can summon on some units and stuff like that. So
I think 5 is fine.
Yeah.
Realistically, and then like you said,
5 is pretty scary.
5 is very scary, and then an Arc Regent. Yeah. And so yeah, I saw that, and I like the insanity of Age of Sigmar, and always have. Like, one of the things that attracts me to the game is things like the priority roll. Realistically, do I, as an opinion piece, think that being able to have an always strikes first 400-point monster that can attack again for 1 command point, meaning 1 command point is really worth 400 points. So it's kind of like if we compare it to Death and their ability to resummon a 360 point unit. So that command point now is worth 360 points, or in Flesh-Eater Corpse it's worth 400 points. Do I think that's a bit strong? I mean, I've got like a measured response, which is, yeah, I think it's quite strong, and I think it's fucking dumb, yeah? But, like, I think that what's really interesting about it is it may shift the game so much that, like, that you have to take a variety of other things in order to combat them, which might skew the game in a bad way, in that, like, yeah, I can deal with the monsters, but I can't deal with, like, one horde unit or something. But it's, like, whatever. I wasn't too stressed. I was just like, that's pretty dumb, but that's fine.
Yeah, and I guess in the whole scheme of the book, that's one of the lesser worrying some things. I mean, it's the dude on the dragon is just pretty scary, isn't he?
He is. And as we saw this weekend, also having crit flares that are able to just do so many mortal wounds from shooting into low bravery is also terrifying. And also then it's also not a 2,000 point army. It's got access to summoning. So, you know, you take your Art Regent, for instance, who's able to then put a 200 points on. So he's effectively a free hero on the board. Yeah. So quite a scary kind of like army. And we've seen it, so spoilers, we've seen it 2 weeks out. And we've already seen a Flesh-Eater Corpse army go 5-0 twice at 2 different competitive match play events. So very, very, very strong. And arguably not very smart as an army. I was on the phone earlier with my very good friend Joe, and Joe said, and this is the famous 27 Skyfire Joe, and his quote was, the reason I like my Skyfires, Rob, is because I could fuck up and my Skyfires would save me. And I think if you go back and watch the live stream for Games Workshop this weekend, you saw Richie play a really solid game in the 5th round against Flesh-Eater Corpse and racked up 18 points in 2 turns. And then Russ, who was playing, didn't really have to respond in any way other than just use his army.
Yeah, just push forward.
I mean, this is the motion. But so what do you make of that, really?
Yeah, I mean, they are just so powerful, aren't they? They're a lot of it looks like they'll be playing Age of Sigmar on easy mode.
Yes.
Really.
What do we mean by that, though?
Like... So like, with the Gloomspite Gitz book, I know a few people were less impressed by the power level as opposed to some of the other battle tomes. But I was quite happy with that because it's more of a challenging type of a book. So I'm quite happy with that. But I should think that some of the Skaven and Flesh-Eater Corpse guys are probably less happy because their book it's just like, this is like playing on super easy mode. You just have to put your toys on the table and push them forward, and then they do their stuff. So yeah.
And no one really wants that, right? Because number one, you don't want the criticism. Like, you don't want to win a game and be like, well, of course, you know, you did it with that. But at the same time, we've had private conversations where I'm like, how the fuck do I kill that king? It's like, well, I can't charge him. Like, he's just rock hard.
There's not many things that will kill him in combat and survive.
And you also can't even feed him stuff, right? Yeah. Hey Darren, so he's in the chat there, which is cool. But the FAQ, which is the key thing to talk about before we get onto the heat results, and also don't forget to join us, me and LLV, for the stat show tomorrow, where we'll go into like a deep dive of the stats and what we mean, because there's some stuff there he's saying in the chat. For instance, across the whole event this weekend, no Flesh-Eater Corpse army lost 2 games.
Oh wow!
Lost 3 games. They all won at least 3. And that's been consistent at 2 events back to back now, where it's a 3-2 army
minimum. Yeah.
But there are some answers of what to feed in, right? Like depending on which army you feed. Like if you've got a Khorne army, you can feed them Wrathman. That's cool. Plague monks, you can feed them Plague monks that strike back. You know, units that die and then strike back.
There's quite a few Khorne things like the Blood Warriors as well fight again after they've died and stuff like that. So yeah.
Good.
But if you're playing Iron Jaws, you may as well just start crying. That's probably why Pepina's struggling a bit with hobby motivation.
Yeah, he's like,
I've painted all these Iron Jaws, and now they've brought Flesh-Eater Corpse.
Yeah, he's like, I've finally done the 60 yard boys layout, lads. So you're like, cool. 1 Terry guy will murder them. It's like, oh fuck. So really, really strong. And the FAQ didn't overly bother me because I actually think it's quite cool. Especially if someone starts putting, like, have you ever seen Nikos's Ogre Kingdoms army where he's got ogres riding on top of spiders, but then he's made them all empire, so he's giving them shields and stuff. So if you start to see more like Flesh Eater courts that are more heraldic, like the narrative, I think there's some great hobby options, especially the concept of them being on knights on top of dragons. Yeah. I'm super into that. I just think it's a bit strong, and I don't think the FAQ made them less strong. I just think they just gave them dragons, which is fine. I don't really care about that. If anything, taking more dragons is probably a mistake, because if you've got an army that gets +1 to hit against monsters, let's say, you're giving that opponent more options realistically. Yeah, I'm all about that. And has anyone made Kumquat art marmalade? I've seen the Kumquat hashtag knocking around quite a lot this weekend as well. So, no other thoughts on the FAQ? Twitch chat, any thoughts on the FAQ? You happy with it overall?
Yeah. I think there were a few queries about the Thanquol one.
Yes.
I didn't quite understand. I mean, the wording on it is terrible. It looks like some people were saying, because you get a shot for each warp lightning cannon.
Warp fire thrower.
Warp fire thrower. So some people were saying, well, then that means I get 4 shots, and then I put each 4 shots out of each warp fire thrower. So, like, if they were shooting 10 dudes, they could end up with 160 shots. I was like, what the heck? But then they've FAQ'd it so that you can only get 1. But then some people were reading it as you only get 1 for all four guns, as opposed to 1 for each gun.
Yeah.
So...
Well,
and it's pretty confusing, really. The more you look at it, the more you think, what way? What? Huh?
I think people were just picking out, like, and I like clarity. Like, one of the things, like, which you didn't hear then, for instance, talking about Flesh Eater Courts, one of the things I haven't said is, like, I wish they could only strike, like, only use that command point once a turn or something.
Or once per game.
Or something like that. Because one of the things we don't do on this show is we don't wish list or hope for a different result. Yeah. Really, all I ever want is clarity, so that I can explain to you guys, or you guys can explain to me whatever the process. But most importantly, when we come to a tournament, is understand the environment we're in. So any clarity, even if it's dumb and it needs clarifying, in the 40k FAQ, Nath, that they did fairly recently, someone was like, they put out an FAQ response. It was like, if your opponent concedes, do you win the game? And they were like, yes. It was like, I don't think that needed to be FAQ'd, but okay. The Twitch chat have definitely got their own feelings about how it goes, and I definitely feel and mirror those as well. But all I want is answers, right? So I can play my game and I can plan for my game as effectively as possible. That's the correct course of action. I would, if I was at home, I would not spend too much time wishing for a different result. Just try and work out how to produce a different result yourself. So talking about results, Games Workshop Heat this weekend was quite exciting, and again we'll cover them in detail on the stat show with LLV tomorrow. But first off, we had like a top 3, which is cool, and the coolest thing is that it was won by Idneth, and it was won by the lovely Mr. James Tinsdale. Who we've seen him go like 4-1 at like the past 2 or 3 events, and do really, really well. And you've commentated on a game of his.
Yes.
Although mainly it was you and Dan Sway giving loads of chit chat about Chaos Dwarfs. and I was table boss that weekend, or that game, so I watched him play. I got to say, a fantastic gamer, and also a really, really good sport. That was my experience of when he played Andy Hughes, and I'm sure Andy Hughes can mirror that statement. So that was exciting, and then he ended up going 5-0 with his Idneth, which is just, and getting 3 favourite game votes as well, because that's how that weekend worked through. So that's
pretty sweet. Yeah, and it's good to see Idneth win a big one again.
Especially
is that the first like big one they've won?
So they've been doing okay, and again, if you go onto the stat show, or if you go onto the honestwargaming.com and look at, just click the stats page, that you'll see a consistent kind of top 3 placing, so you can see where they've done.
They've always performed really well. They're a very strong army, aren't they? So very
strong, but previously always been 4-1. And what I think is really important, and if you look at James's army list, which by the way is on the honestwargamer.com, so he put his army list on there today. So a massive thank you to him for doing that. Cheers. And you can just see the Heat 1 winner list. So I'll put that in the show notes. So if you just type in Heat 1 winner, he was like, just so you know, I'm the winner. So what you normally would see is a lot of eels, and there are a lot of eels in his list, but he's also decided to change some of those key elements. Oh, Altrios, thanks so much for subscribing for 100 bits. I think that's because he killed Nagash with the Warp Lightning Cannon. He wants us all to know.
Nagash tapes Warp Lightning. Maybe his Nagash died to Warp Lightning.
But he also has taken a bunch of Reavers, which you don't traditionally see, I would say, in an Idoneth list. 2 units of 10 Reavers.
Yeah.
If you go on that and have a look at his list, and I'm sure he's a member of the Just Play team, so I'm sure he'll be on. I've asked him today, but I think that on Wednesday they're going to do a show about that, so you can hear all about his victory. But I think because he's been playing it so often and so much, he's really just slowly improved the list, and he's like, do you know what? I don't need another unit of hard hitting eels. I need some Reavers, or I need to clear a screen with some shooting, or I need a little bit here or there.
Some chaff or something like that,
yeah. And then also Matt Pashby, big shout out to that gorgeous gentleman. He went 5-0 at the LVO, and he put some Eternal Guard in his list, which is another great shout. But yeah, so James won this weekend, went 5-0, got 3 favourite sports votes, which is cool.
It's good.
What do you think of
some Wild Riders in there with shields.
Don't tell people I'm painting up Wild Riders. See, I've actually got 2 lots of Wild Riders I'm painting up. I painted up Wild Riders with shields and Wild Riders without shields, because sometimes I want that movement, right?
Yeah.
Which is key.
There we go.
So I think he's also someone to watch out for, because he's been playing that army fairly consistently.
Yeah.
And I think no matter what happens in the General's Handbook in the summer, I think you'll see him, especially with Idoneth, start to understand that army more and more as elements change around inside of it. Yeah. Interested to see if he moves on, because that's his fairly new to the game. He's only been in it for a year. I think
they play a lot of games up there, don't they?
They do.
I see. Richie plays Sylvaneth, but I see they've been playing Gloomspite and Nine Taunt and other death factions.
Yeah, Richie, Ian, and James have been playing a lot of games. They've also run I think they've got a series called the Justice Series GT, which so they've got because they've got their own gaming store, so you can go up there. So those guys are playing really hard, playing really well. We saw Richie play on the stream in Game 5 for the win, basically against Russ from Facehammer, and then Russ ended up winning with. The Flesh Eater course, so that battle tome that's been out the 2 weeks. There's a conversation there, but we'll just let you guys have that conversation. So again, if you go back and listen to our show 3 weeks ago, I think that's all we'll say. Just cool. I don't want to say called it, Nath. I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to smile and drink my tea out my flask. Do you want to say anything about it?
No.
As I sit, wait, hold on. Do you want to say anything?
No. Not really.
Okay. So the top 3 were decided by sports votes, which is interesting. And James, being nothing but a gentleman as I understood it, so soft scored at the Warhammer World Heats, ended up with 3 wins. 3 sports votes. And then Russ ended up with 1.
Yeah.
So they both went 5-0. Yeah.
But the sports votes
swung it. And I think that's interesting. But
swung it so much that he dropped down to 3rd, didn't it?
He
Rusted,
did. Yeah, he did.
Gary sneaked into 2nd.
He did. And this is where we get to have a great conversation. My question to you, Nate, is if you were going to sell a sports vote, I would like to, because as you guys know, we're not very rich on the Honest Wargame, but we don't have loads of money. Yeah, and we're looking for new ways to fund the show all the time. So, a Warhammer World Heat, I've checked the rules today, Nate. This is important. A Warhammer World Heat costs £65 for me to go to. But it's only around the corner, so I can get there for free, and all your food's provided, right? So £65 is my base cost. Now I play 5 games, right? And I can give 5 favourite game votes and 5 favourite army votes. So I'm thinking, if I sell each one of those, right?
No, you can only give 1 favourite game.
The 2 favourite game votes and 2 favourite army votes.
Yeah.
So I've got 4 things to sell. Yeah. So if I sold them for £100 each, I could be walking, and I checked the rules. Yeah, there's nothing in the rules saying you can't sell your votes.
Oh yeah.
So I say,
open up a store.
A web cart coming soon.
There's other things you could sell, I'm sure, as well.
Well, I'm sure there are. But my question is, Nathan,
other favours you have. Have you got any other favours for sale?
Well, we'll start with votes, and then. Oh, Alchios, thank you for the 100 bits donation. And Adam John.
Did you just sell them?
Huh? 100 bits. I think I'd sell it for more than that.
Yeah, you've got a sports vote.
A kissing booth for votes. I don't think I'd do a kissing booth. But Nate, how much would you sell yours for? That's my question.
What, sports votes?
Yeah.
No, sports votes aren't for sale.
You wouldn't sell them?
No.
Oh. You sure?
Yeah.
Should we open a web cart is my point.
No, I'd sell other things, but not a sports vote.
Not sports votes.
Other favours, no probs.
So are we saying an honest wargamer policy is we'll never sell or buy a sports vote?
That's a good policy, don't you think?
I think that's... look, I agree. I'm just saying we don't have loads of cash. Yeah?
But we've got other things we can do for cash.
Okay, so we should do other things for cash and not this.
Yeah.
All right,
not
okay.
sports votes.
All right, okay, that seems fine. All right.
That's a bridge too far.
That's a bridge too far. And with that said, though, congratulations to Gary for getting most sporting at the GT Heats.
Yeah.
Skills. Congratulations. You deserve it.
Skills.
You got to be a nice guy, right?
Yeah.
You just got to have fun and enjoy your time. And I love making money. That's all I've got to tell you. So while I'm publicly saying no, privately, if everyone wants to watch the screen, privately, good. And then Speckles says, I'm pretty happy with sports or painting. I'd come second place, lol, says Speckles. But Speckles is rubbish to play at Warhammer because it's no fun. Jim98 says, YouTube jet videos for cash. That's a good idea. We'll work on that. That sounds fun. Right. So overall, Skaven also did really well. Skaven came second, in fact. But that was based on, because that was 4 wins and a draw, plus favourite game votes to come second, and the Flesh Eater Courts third. So, again, interesting. Watching a different Flesh Eater Courts build to the one that was run at Slaughter. Again, go 5-0.
Yeah,
so
this was the Flayer heavy one with the Gristlegore. Not Gristlegore, with Blisterkin. So, yeah, that's the other one that seems to be a good mix.
Yes. Yeah, so yeah, it was Blisterkin this weekend, Gristlegore last weekend.
Yeah.
So eventually it'll be nice to see someone who hasn't had any advanced knowledge play those armies like to a 5-0, but currently that's the environment we're in. But it looked like a great weekend. I was actually super jealous. It was like it was just there. I could have gone, but like I enjoyed the weekend off actually because it meant we could do some other cooler shit because I've got some stuff planned. So you up for that?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about that? It looked like a great weekend. There were loads of podcasters who went, so I don't particularly want to cover it very much because we weren't there.
Yeah.
Which is key. So we can't really say shit. We didn't play any games, so we can't do that. So whatever. So big, massive congratulations to James, though. I think that's a solid.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to hear from Just Play. They'll be doing a podcast, I'm sure, and Facehammer because obviously Russ's podcast. So yeah.
And then Steve Wren was there, and I think there's that Bad Dice podcast that doesn't happen anymore. So you won't hear that. And then what else will there be?
Stormcast Eternals one.
Oh yeah, there's a Stormcast Eternals one. Probably won't hear anything on that either. But yeah, give them a listen.
No, but Facehammer and D-Darvel and Just Play, they'll be definitely.
Hold on. Linus of Magmadron fame went 3-0 with Gristlegore in a small one day here in Sweden this weekend. Yes, holy bananas! If you guys, again, a big shout out to Linus's rundown of Magma dragons on the damn it on the honestwargamer.com. That's what it's called, my own website. I don't know the name.
One of those websites. So wow,
right,
he's been a traitor to the Magma Dragons and he's gone with bloody Terrorgeists and zombie dragons.
Yeah, I know. What a dick.
How can he look at himself in the mirror in the morning?
I don't imagine he has a mirror. I imagine he has like a collection of people's faces on a wall that he stares at.
Decides which one to wear for the day.
But before we do go away though, here's a question. because we didn't touch on it, because I feel a little bit scatty. Sorry, guys. I'm a little bit het up, and I don't feel very together. We're talking about behemoths being battle line, right?
Yeah.
So obviously the reason that's a big deal is because it flies in the face of convention, and you hope Beastclaw Raiders get something similar. But is there any other restrictions you would like to see removed from the core game? Like, would you like other armies to have the access to have more behemoths as battle line,
or more war machines?
Or war machines as battle line, yeah.
Yeah, we need more warp lightning cannons in our life. No, we don't. They can fuck off.
What, you don't want the warp lightning cannon battery?
No.
You don't want 8 warp lightning cannons?
No, they should be restricted to 1 for every 5 Skaven armies.
Yeah?
Yeah, they have to fight each other for that one thing before the tournament.
What about, okay, good point. What about Ironweld? What about having 8 Ironweld battle line cannons?
Sure, whatever. They're
you
rubbish.
Into that?
Yeah.
They are rubbish. What about Gorgons as battle line? Or what if we could have had spiders as battle line? Arachnarok spiders as battle line?
Yeah. That would have been cool.
Yeah?
I mean, it wouldn't have been very powerful, but yeah, it'd be cool. Loads of those Skitterstrain spiders popping up out the ground all over the place. Out of their realm gate spider holes. Okay.
Yeah, that would have been fun. Yeah? No? Dave Fraser says ditch it all. 0 to 6 heroes. 0 to 4. He says just ditch it all. Yeah, and also ditch the points. Dave, we've tried that, mate.
And those were the best
days. Those were the bestest times. Yeah, do you know why? Because the community did the points. That was the mostest fun. Colorus says, Wild Riders is battle line. Dare I fly as close to the sun? Gursey, the Seraphon are all about big dinosaurs, and only 4 is a bit underwhelming. That's true. Seraphon having some monster battle line would be fun.
Yeah.
Stegodon battle line.
Oh, what about that?
Troglodons. Troglodon battle line.
Yeah, that would be cool. What about that formation? The
Sons of Behemoth.
Yeah, the Sons of Behemoth.
That's right, a Gargantu's battle line, mate. As long as you have a Gargant king.
And then just loads of giants running around, staggering, falling over, getting up. Oh,
so 1 king giant and only giants in your army.
Yeah.
Would you take that army?
Yes.
You'd put so many things down your pants.
If I could take the Gobapalooza with it as well, that'd be great.
Gobapalooza and giants. That's my army. So me and Nathan don't want there to be points or restrictions in Age of Sigmar anymore. We're going old school. Yeah, we can just play that if you want. Have you got enough giants? How many giants do you have?
I haven't got that many giants. I've only got 1.
Oh, I've got a giant. Do you want a giant? I'll give you a giant.
Yes, I do. I'll never turn down a giant.
If anyone has any spare giants knocking around that you'd like to send to Nathan, he wants to run 5 giants in a narrative mission against me. Oh, Dude Our Day, thanks for giving not only he's gifted a donation, a subscription to Colory. That's lovely. And then Lee Bromley wants an all-giant army. That would be great. Purple Sun as battle line, says Hynrad. Hynrad, you're going to be really interesting, actually. By the way, if no one knows, Twitch chat, if you're interested, Hynrad is the worst Daughters of Cain player in the world. So congratulations, Hynrad. We've really run the gamut of professional gamers on the show. Lee Bromley says he'll send you a giant, Nath.
Oh, wow.
There you go. Just swap battle line and behemoth restrictions. So next general handbook, that's the
minimum 3 giants.
Minimum 3 giants. What else would be good? Minimum 3. What other monsters are there? Star Drakes. Jabba Slides would be fun. Minimum 3 Star Drakes.
Merworms.
Merworms would be great. I'd take that. That'd be fun.
Turtles.
Oh, yes.
Minimum of 3 turtles.
Minimum 3 turtles. Plus 1 free shark. Yeah. There should be a special rule that I have that the first time they slay a model, the first time they slay a unit, a free shark comes on the board because it smells the blood.
Smells the blood.
Plus, I wouldn't care because they sunk. I'd just be like, cool. There's a shark. That's fun. Apparently we're not said no more shaming. Okay, thanks, Dude Our Day. Apologies. So we're not shaming Hynrad anymore. We're keeping it on the down low. No one mentioned Hynrad's name or that he's rubbish for Daughters of Cain. Everyone keep it to themselves. 3 Chaos Mammoths. That'd be sweet. Okay. Alright, so should we get on with the main part of the show?
Yeah.
Oh, before we do that, I would just like to shout out Warhammer Weekly. If you ever get the opportunity to watch something, you should watch Warhammer Weekly. Those guys did a show the other day, and I watched the whole thing through. I was cracking up the whole time. Had a great time. And those guys just call it like they see it. And they row like we row. Like, I just loved that show the other day. It was like 3 hours of just solid gold Warhammer entertainment that I enjoyed. So, big shout out to those guys. Oh, hi, Pa. All right, you ready to see some cool shit?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so this is how it's going to work. So, the next part of the show is we're going to be discussing the battle plans for Age of Sigmar. Right? So, this is a key part, right? Now, the reason we're doing this is I don't think anyone's necessarily done this in like intense detail, so that's important that we make sure we do it really well. And also, like, it's not flashy, it's not like the new battle tome, but it's like something really, really important because probably one of the key things. I know Nick from AOS 10, for instance, always says play the mission. Like, that's the way he wins games.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important to have a resource for people so that you can go, okay, this is all the information that we need about battle plans. And because when we did the Sheffield Slaughter live coverage, we saw someone lose before they even put models on the board because of the battle plan. So one of the other things that we might be able to talk about is maybe some battle plans shouldn't be in a scenario pack, or a scenario pack, because we've come up with some new ones. And again, if you go on thehonestwargamer.com, we've put all these in a thread. I'm sure one of the guys in the chat will link it for you. We've developed some like modes, so like Kingmaker, which is just all the hero scenarios. Because no one does that. Most people try and do balanced battle plan packs.
Yeah, and even spread.
But you could make it
heavily skewed towards having superheroes.
Exactly.
Be the superhero weekend. Superhero landing.
Superheroes all day. Thanks everyone noticing the cool new overlay that we've got for this. So thank you to John for setting that up for us. And Lukewarm, thanks for subscribing. Nikos, hi baby. So as you can see on the screen there, there's 20 battle plans in Age of Sigmar that you can play at a match play tournament.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that we're not considering today in this video or in this podcast, if you're listening, and I'll include some links so where you can come and see these as images, is we're not thinking about the realms which you could also play in at the same time. So that adds a layer of complexity. And maybe we'll talk about that on the next show, or we'll wait a couple of weeks and we'll come back to it, right? Yeah, that'd be fun. Or if you're a content creator out there and you liked what we've done here and you'd like to do the next stage of it, then that's cool too. Whatever, as long as the people get the information, which is what the key part is. Crazy Hippo, thanks for subscribing. So 18 match play plans, and 6 of them come from the core rulebook, as you can see. Can you see that?
No.
If you just press play, you'll be able to see it.
Yeah.
12 of them come from the General's Handbook 2018, and 2 of them come from Malign Portents, or Malign Sorcery. I can't remember which one it is, but it's one of those 2. What about the Malign Portents one? So they're in there. So that's 20 in total. So you guys should be able to see that on the screen if you're looking. And core rulebook is Blood and Glory, Escalation, Border War, 3 places of power, taken, holding, gift from the heavens. And the GHB is Knife to the Heart, Total Conquest, Duality of Death, Battle for the Past, Star Strike, Scorched Earth, Total Commitment, Focal Points. I'm about to say it, no one get triggered. Battle Part of Valor. Shifted Objectives, Places of Arcane Power, Relocation, Orb. I put Orb 6. And then in Malign Sorcery, there's the Chained Colossus and Magical Supremacy.
Which is cool. I'm not seeing those 2.
Yeah. Johnny was asking us to playtest Chain Colossus earlier, maybe in use for Bobo, potentially Collaroo. Triggered. Or Endrin triggered. So those are the missions. And Nath, what was your experience of when we saw Better Part of Valor, which is in there from GHB, when we saw it at Sheffield Slaughter? What happened? Just in case people missed it.
So, this is the one where you can burn your objectives.
Yeah.
So, this is the one that Richie wished they'd played last game on the weekend, but they didn't.
But they did play it in round 4.
Did they?
So, they played that at the Warhammer World Heats this weekend. Yeah.
So, but, I bet he wishes it was saved for the last game. But, yeah, so if you can flood the board and flood your opponent's objectives, the first turn you can just burn everything.
Yes.
And if you go first, then you can...
And you got the movement.
Yeah, you can end the game before your opponent has a turn, which is what we saw at Sheffield.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we're doing this show today, because what we might be able to encourage is TOs to do a different kind of spread. I know for one, I now am excited about the potential breakdown. And it was only really when I took the time to do the work to write it all out that I saw that you could actually make some pretty interesting like tournaments if you skewed the missions quite a degree. So that's where they are. So you guys have got that. The next up though is the breakdown. So you guys should be able to see that there. And so I've broken them down into what's most important about those missions realistically. So the hero battle plans are Chain Colossus, Duality of Death, and we're going to go through each one of these battle plans individually. But we're going to do it via this system.
Okay.
So we've got Chain Colossus, Duality of Death, 3 places of power, and then places of arcane power. So they require a hero, or a hero is important to win the game. But some of those aren't always true. Like, for instance, I have changed Relocation Orb to random objectives, which still you get a benefit if you have a hero, because it counts as 20 models. But this is just the way it works, right? So those are the ones that require a hero. So that's 4 out of the 20. Then random objectives, you've got Gift from the Heavens, Star Strike, Shifting Objective, Relocation Orb. So that's something where a dice roll will determine whether or not an objective is somewhere, where it's going to land, or how much it's worth. So, again, that's important, right? And then you've got progressive scoring, Escalation, Border War, Total Conquest, Battle for the Past, Total Commitment, Focal Points, and Magical Supremacy. So those require
you to hold
objectives over a certain amount of time, right? So, real simple. And then you've got Conclusive Wins, which I think is just cool, which is Blood and Glory, Knife to the Heart, and Take and Hold. So this is, you must achieve something to get beyond a minor victory. So the most you can get is a minor victory unless you hold both objectives, or you hold all 4 objectives in Blood and Glory. And then finally, burning objectives, you've got Scorched Earth and the better part of Valor. So that's your ability to burn objectives.
Where you can, toast them.
You can toast them, so there's that, if that helps. And then finally, you guys can see there, well, not finally, next up, you've got when you start scoring, which is quite interesting. Again, some of them require you to score at different turns. So turn 1, as you can see there, most scenarios you can start scoring via turn 1. But turn 2 is Escalation, Gift from the Heavens, Star Strike, and Scorched Earth. So there's 4 battle plans there, with 3 of them, Blood and Glory, Take and Hold, Knife to the Heart, happening in turn 3. And that's you can immediately win in turn 3 on all 3 of those.
So you don't really score, but you just end the game.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
But what's interesting is if you wanted to, you could design an entire tournament there, which no one scores on the first turn, which makes Alpha Strike armies potentially not great. Especially when you've got things like Star Strike. Like, I actually think a tournament...
But a lot of the games won't go past turn 3 or 4, probably, because they'll all end fairly quick as well. So, like, the first turn won't count, and probably the last turn won't count. So it's all about those middle.
Exactly, and I don't know if I've seen anyone, or I haven't seen anyone having written them out in this format, so that people can just use it as a quick reference. That's why I did it, so that they can go, actually, I'll design a different kind of mission, right? And then finally, that's when you start scoring. And then finally, we've invented some modes. So, and then we're going to go through the individual battle plans and maybe how you win them. So, if you were thinking of running your own tournament and you weren't going to go for, because I think this is going to have to be a long conversation, if we wanted a balanced tournament pack, like you need a bit of everything, and you're only playing 5 games, it's going to be a long conversation as we go through all the battle plans. But if you wanted to make a completely fucked up skewed one and have a great weekend, then you could do these. So you've got Kingmaker mode, which is 3 places of power, Duality of Death, places of arcane power, Chain Colossus, and Magical Supremacy. So that's all the heroes all the time.
All about the heroes.
All about the heroes, right? Which would be cool. And then you've got Raise and Ruin. So this is where you can burn stuff. And it's also the 3 scenarios which you can auto-win. So Blood and Glory, Take and Hold, Knife to the Heart, Scorched Earth, and Better Part of Valor. Then you've got Hoard the Gold mode, which is just all the objectives all the time.
So these are just the long, grindy ones.
Long, grindy, horde armies beating each other up. Everyone's getting pissed. And that is Escalation, Border War, Focal Points, Battle for the Past, and Total Conquest. And then finally, you've got Madness is the Mission mode, which I think is going to be your favourite.
Yeah, except I don't like any of those.
I don't know if anyone likes this mode, but it would be a fun tournament, which is Gift from the Heavens.
Yeah.
And also, I've got a great argument, I think, later on for Gift of the Heavens and Starstrike both being in a tournament pack at the same time.
Okay.
Just because, like, I think, like...
Oh, it certainly favours mobile armies.
Does it, though? Like, doesn't it... It requires you being able to hold off for a turn or set up for a turn, which I think is really interesting. It's like it's a really interesting first turn game when there's two of those scenarios at an event, I think. But
yeah. I mean none of the scenarios are actually totally useless, really. Especially if you know, like at Sheffield, you knew that they were coming because they were in the tournament pack.
Mm-hmm.
So if you auto lost one of those things, it was because you took the wrong list at the end of the day.
Agreed. Yeah. I don't disagree. What I thought was interesting is if we break it down into like sections, people might be able to, especially they can reference this video all the time and they can go, oh, what did they say about that mission?
Or go to the website, because that's great. That it's all there on that their website.
That their website.
That they're one of them many websites. No, but it's
LOV says, do you suggest a particular order that they run to the event flow? Not currently. So what I'm going to do...
and then you could, by adding the realms, and again, that just changes the nature of each scenario.
Of course it does. So that's the thing I'm going to do later. I'm going to do, on our Facebook and also on my Twitter, I'm going to do like a thread. I'm going to say, like, pick your 5 missions that you would run at a tournament and why. Because I think that would be super interesting. Because the mix and match, like I've said, it was only when I put these together I was like, Gift from the Heavens and Starstrike at the same tournament would actually be quite fun. Relocation Orb, triggered. And then shifting objectives. I like shifting objectives because it's just like, we're just going to fight. It's like...
It's in the middle.
It's in the middle. Also, my dwarves have only got 28 shooting and all the fucking stuff's in the middle. I love that mission. I want it to be in every mission, but that's because my army wants it to be and some people won't want it to be. Yeah. So...
you just set up a... I mean, it's great for gun lines because you just set up a killing zone. And
it's like, fuck you, buddies. And then the Relocation Orb and Chain Colossus, which has a purple sun in it. Yeah?
That sounds mental. I've not read
I'm going to read it
two out of the Malign Sorcery, so I'm looking forward to this.
And then Killer Camp says, give me random shit all the time. I don't have to worry about getting better tactically. And that might be, especially if you're running like a... You know, if you've got like a young... get wargaming groups and they haven't been into the game long, you know, like you've got like a foundling community, maybe potentially doing Madness is the Mission mode where you're playing a 5-game tournament where it's all random all the time. I don't know, you guys in the chat will have to let me know how Nathan, how do you find it, you know, when you're waiting for the star to land and it lands in the wrong place? Like, do you feel like the dice just determines it, or do you feel like you haven't built an army that can be mobile enough? Like, because some people hate the missions.
So I mean, normally, so if I'm playing it with what used to be Moon Clan, so with the Gits, they're probably the best at it because I've got Hand of Gork, so I can teleport units around. And they're pretty fast, really. They all get bonuses to run and stuff. So I'm pretty happy with that. The Dispossessed, obviously, it's like, if it lands over there... That's like, fuck that shit.
Have you ever had your mate throw something to you? Yeah, and then it's just gone nowhere near you. And it might as well be 1,000 miles away.
Yeah, sometimes I've played that and it's like been so close. And then I'm just like, well, I still can't reach it. Fuck. It's like, not even, it's just in the next quadrant to me. But that's just too far. I'm too busy over here. I can't go over there. So I mean, they are, but that's their problem. And then Iron Jaws.
Normally, I run into the people anyway.
Yeah, normally I run into my opponent's army. So if it drops somewhere else, then sometimes there's a bit of struggle for them because also most of their units are involved in the fight. And you don't have spare units that you can just send to go and stand on something. It's like, no, the Iron Jaws don't want to be standing around looking after a piece of gold. They want to be over there
fighting for some other bit of gold,
duffing somebody up.
Yeah,
and if there's gold there, great. If there's not, who cares? We're having a great time. So
that's the advantage of like a shooting platform, like say Warp Lightning Cannon sometimes, is their capacity to just like, they're like, I'm not near the objective, I'm a single model, but I can like I can like one shot like a Vampire Lord Zombie Dragon, for instance. So you have to come and get me, but you're not going to where the objective is, and that's why like your army list building, and hopefully when we go through these scenarios, you guys will go check. Like, and I think it's going to be a learning conversation for all of us, right? And I think this will be the first good conversation.
Yeah, they're good for drawing things away from objectives, or being able to sit on objective and still affect the game, even though the objective is not in the game. If it's like on the outskirts of the game, they can still do stuff from.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good piece of advice. Let's pick it like, let's just pick something really simple like 40 Arcanauts, right, or 30 Arcanauts. You put them on an objective because you're like, I've got 30 bodies on the board, but it's a pretty expensive unit that can do loads and loads of damage. So what you could do is put 10 Arcanauts on the objective and 40 Arcanauts a little bit away from them, like not near the objective. So now the Arcanauts are a threat your opponent has to deal with, but they need to go and duff up the 10 Arcanauts, and in this scenario, like, and it's all about winning and getting the objective. So realistically, you can play smarter by putting the expensive stuff away from the places. And like you said, your Iron Jaws go beat stuff up, right? So I always put my expensive block of 30 shooter boys, my fire glaives, I put them away from the objective, and I always put my 10 on the objective. And I'm like, well, you can kill 10, and then the 30 will shoot you. That's my plan.
In the back, yeah.
Typical. So everyone, if you guys are looking at the Battleplan modes, that isn't the 20 list that you've seen. It's not all of them. That's not all of them. That's a selection of them for you to take a polarized list. The actual selection of the actual 20 of them is there, right? So Chain Colossus isn't in it twice. It's in it in its normal form. So we're going to go through these via this breakdown system. So hero battle plans, random objectives, progressive scoring as we go through. And the first one we're going to do is hero battle plans. So these require heroes or heroes help you score. Yeah, and this is the interesting thing about some armies and the weaknesses and the strengths. And you'll know your battle plan, not your battle plan, your battle tone quite well. You'll know if you've got lots of strengths, like hero strengths, for instance. You can take your only real options, Nath, are you've got your 5 wound heroes or your 6 wound heroes that you're shamans, or you've got 3
wound heroes, or 4 wound heroes.
All right, okay.
You're kind of exaggerating how many wounds my heroes have got.
Wait, how many has Scragrot got? 6.
He's got 6.
Well then, I'm not exaggerating. That's 6. What other hero have you got that's got 3?
All the Gobblepalooza wizards have got 3.
Gobblepalooza.
And the Mad Cat Shamans have got 4. So, yeah.
Mackie Mac asks, we have a small 3-game tournament at our local game club soon. We are all fairly new to playing AOS. Which 3 battle plans would you recommend? I don't know if I'd like to do that now. Maybe I'll do that at the kind of like in the closing statement, right? Or maybe I'll write it up. But I probably would say, I don't know. We'll do that at the end. Yeah, we'll do like a more condensed version at some point. This is a conversation, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I hope that answers. Hi, Ian Plimmer. So the first one we're going to look at is Chained Colossus, because Nathan has no idea what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's a great start.
So there we go. So that's the plan, as you can see on the screen. Woohoo! So there's some key elements that we've put on here, and one of the most important points to talk about is the minimum deployment distance. So, the minimum. So you'll be 24 inches apart.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So that's quite interesting because some of them are 18, and that does mean that you might be able to take an army that can Alpha Strike or do some other bits. So Chain Colossus is in a Malign Sorcery, or potentially the other one. 24 inches apart, and you set up and in this scenario, what you do is you set up a purple sun in the middle of the board.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the centre there.
It's a great start.
It's a great start. And the purple sun moves during the priority turn, just like everyone else's. Just like it would do if it was an Ender spell.
Yeah.
Well, it is an Ender spell, a predatory one. However, if there are 4 objectives on the board and they're controlled by heroes, only they can capture and score. And what you do is if you hold more than 2 objectives, well, if you hold more objectives than your opponent, you can move it into that. Like you can move it.
During the in-between...
During the phase where you normally would move and then the spell. Right?
And it can't be dispelled.
Right. No. And then you hold 1 VP for holding each objective, and you also score 3 VPs if Purple Sun is in your opponent's territory.
Okay. So it doesn't move until the turn 1, 2.
Yeah, between Battle Round 1 and Battle Round 2, it won't move.
Okay, and if you're both holding 2 objectives...
It won't move.
Then it won't move.
It won't move.
It only moves once. Okay, cool. So it's a bit like...
But it's also a Purple Sun.
Yeah.
So you're also throwing a Purple Sun at them.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, what was that? There was one that they used to play during MoComp or at some of the South Coast where you could...
Which was a dumb tournament where they had the bloody building which you got in.
Yeah, that was the tower. But no, there was another one where you had like little towers. If you controlled them, then you could make stuff happen. That was weird. Yeah. Well, it's a bit like that.
It's cool. A bit like that. Yeah. Right, now this doesn't... now this doesn't actually... this hasn't, as far as I know, has not been in any match play tournaments that we've been to.
No, I've never... This first time I've seen it.
And it would require... So you have to... So if this was a tournament pack that you're going to play, it would require you to have some pretty solid magical heroes. So some armies, dispossessed, Kharadron Overlords, would have to look for allies in order to make their army better. Yeah?
Oh, because only magicians?
Yes. Heroes that are wizards.
Or with artifacts of power?
Heroes
only wizards.
Only wizards.
Ah,
yeah?
Stupid thing. Stupid game.
But it is fun. It does require there to be a Purple Sun on the board, which is fun because no one actually runs them because they're rubbish. Or they're just too many points. So, overall... an interesting battle plan, and if this is in a mission that you got to play, you do have to have not just wizards that are good, but also wizards that are survivable and wizards that can be mobile to go onto your opponent's objectives and then make it so that you can, because it will become a flat draw / minor win if all you do is both hold on to your objectives for the whole game.
Yeah.
So you either have to clear them off an objective or you're going to have to go put a wizard on their objective. So something scary like Nagash or Vampire Zombie Dragon or the Gristlegore General is going to have a great time.
He's going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Units of Evocators are going to enjoy it.
Okay. And also, Coloru, thank you. Rerolling Wands did a bat rep with this plan recently if you'd like to see it in action. Okay. Yeah. And also, Captain Andrew, that's a good point. Skittily. So if you're playing Skaven, there's the thing. If you're playing Stormcast, the ability to deep strike.
Yeah. No, like I say, the Evocators or the... or Daughters of Cain with their units of the Riders.
Yeah, Doomfire Warlocks. Or they've got a much larger wizard who's much more scarier.
Oh, Marathi.
Yeah.
No, Riders.
Yeah, not Doomfire Warlocks.
Marathi, yeah.
Anyway, so those are the things that you've got to think about if this happens to be in a tournament pack. Even if it isn't a tournament pack, then you play in an interesting environment, right? But this is really fun, right?
I mean, if they roll for this and they didn't tell you it was coming, woo, yeah.
Yeah, and also Colonel Cabbage makes a good point. This plan potentially is more fun than either Duality of Death or Places of Arcane Power. Which because in this scenario, your wizards have to go and get the objectives.
Yeah, it's very wizard orientated. So.
It is. You could say it's a wizard scenario. Next up, talking about hero powerful ones, is Duality of Death. So again, you can see where it's from. It's from the General's Handbook 2018. So you and your opponent start 24 inches apart again, which is quite important because the objectives are in the centre of the board, meaning you've got to move 12 inches.
Yeah.
So having fast
But
heroes.
You're also condensed in from the edges as well.
Yeah, so if you've got a big horde army, could be tough to fit in, but probably not. Oh, Adam John, thanks very much for the bits donation. And in order to score, you need a hero or a behemoth, and you move within it within 3 inches in your movement phase. You can't run away from it. So you know what I mean by that? You can't retreat.
Yeah. You got to stay within 3 to keep scoring.
Yeah.
And you can't retreat onto it to gain control over it.
And also, if you control it, and someone charges you in your hero phase, well, not your hero phase, your movement phase, you move away from it. You don't still control it because you've now retreated. Yeah. And the way to claim it is to go and beat up the enemy monster or hero.
Unless you retreat, but you still remain within 3.
No.
Because you don't lose control.
No, yeah, because that's a retreat. It even specifies that. Like, I read it like several times. If you retreat, you don't hold it anymore. As soon as you retreat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Even if you're within 3, because you've done a retreat move as part of your move action.
But does that say...
That negates it. That negates holding it.
You can lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's the other one that says you can't retreat. You can't gain control of it by retreating. But once you've got control of it, the only way you can lose it is if you die or move away from it.
Yeah, but then that got FAQs as well, because some people were like, I'm still here, but I'm dead. So you need a strong hero that can beat stuff up, a bit like the other one, right?
Yeah.
You need,
but at least this can be heroes of behemoths as well, so it doesn't have to be just wizards.
No, it doesn't. So, you can have your hero that's like not a wizard, go and beat stuff up, which is fun. Talking about you Maw Crushers and other fellows, but then they have to then be able to hold on to it, which is important as well. So they need to be fairly survivable. So if you're just looking at these 2 battle plans, if they ended up being a tournament, you would have to have a hero that... So what I do with my army is I spend 160 points specifically on a Bull Centaur turret because he's movement 8, so he's like one of the fastest models in my army, but it's the fastest hero definitely versus my movement 4. And then instead of giving him a great weapon and like another cool like extra attack, I make him -1 to hit and I give him a 5+ after damage save. So I intentionally have in my army list design a model whose job it is, because I tend to play the same army list all the time with my Chaos Dwarves, and his job role is only if there's a tournament where this comes up, I have to go and his job is to just scrape by that victory for me. whereas if I was going to a tournament where more than one of this would come up, I would genuinely have to look at maybe having a couple more heroes that were mobile to go and secure that. Yeah. How do you deal with it, Nath, in your armies?
So it's always a struggle for me in my armies, these ones. So it's particularly with my dispossessed, because all my heroes are 5 wound heroes.
I mean, that's so many.
And yeah, that's pretty chunky, really. And they got 4+ saves, but they're not, but they're all movement 4. So yeah. So then it's just a case of trying to get the hero on there, but then screening the hero with loads of bodies, get the rest of the army just to surround them. But then again, mobility is the issue. So generally, these ones are a bit of a struggle for the dispossessed, I'm afraid to say. But that's cool because they're the best anyway. They're not cheerful because of their rules. They're just the best. So, and then the Gits, a similar sort of problem. The heroes are fairly fragile, although they're a bit more sneaky than the others. So they all tend to have loads of minuses to be hit, and some of them have got after damage saves. But again, it's just a case of getting the heroes on there and then just trying to get the rest of your army to surround them and protect them.
Yeah, a solid tactic we'll see in scenarios like this is what you do is you just feed your opponent's army everything else apart from your heroes and just hold it to the objectives.
Yeah.
Another thing to talk about is turn 1 armies, so armies that are just 1 drop, so they're able to choose to go first. And
exactly. So my army would struggle against things like Sylvaneth because they would have the first turn normally. They would be able to just put their dudes on the objectives and effectively screen against my army with them. So in cases like that, that's where I use the endless spells to try and kill the heroes, and then I can at least stop them scoring and then try and work my way on to at least one objective.
Yeah. So a good counter tactic for that. Yeah, so you've got to consider whether or not your opponent can just outdrop you, and Sylvaneth's probably the perfect example. Can they outdrop you, just put heroes that are incredibly survivable and can heal on objectives, and then just feed you chaff? That's one of the things you've got to ask yourself. And then if your opponent can, and you don't have something similar, or your army is unable to do 1 drop, can you do something like, can you take flying units, can jump over their screens? Yeah. Can you take endless spells? Can you do AoE damage that just deals loads of stuff. Can you shoot screens off and then charge through? So you need to ask yourself, do you have if you aren't designing an army designed to jump onto those objectives early, do you have a way of clearing them off? Yeah. Shooting's another good example, right? You just shoot all their heroes and you're like, cool, I'm done now. That's fun. But Sylvaneth also pose that problem in that they're just line of sight blocking trees.
Yeah.
So flying shooting is what you need. Gyrocopters.
Gyro bombers. So these hero ones are generally the ones that I struggle the most with all of my army builds. The Iron Jaws, they're probably better than most because my Iron Jaws lists tend to be a 1 or very low drop, so I can get heroes onto those objectives early, and then the rest of my army just smashes into theirs.
Yeah.
And by the time we've finished fighting over there, hopefully I've scored enough points that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, another good advantage obviously is always is having something like Stormcast that can just deep strike.
Yeah.
Right. So there you go. That's Duality of Death, which is a very interesting scenario. And if you are going to play this, you do have to think: can I go and beat up the enemy heroes as well? So you might not have lots of heroes, but can your hero go and gazump and womp the enemy hero?
That Gristlegore dude on
that Gristlegore dude, Nagash, Alariel. So you do need something that can go and do the damage and actually win back the scenario, right?
Yeah.
Next up is another. This is from the core rulebook. This is 3 places of power. Again, minimum distance. You start 24 inches away. So lots of these hero missions require you to be 24 inches away, which is interesting. So think, can you move within 6 or 3 inches of an objective with your hero? Right? What are you laughing at?
No.
Probably not, no. Right. And the scoring in this is progressive, and only heroes can score, and you get VPs, so you get victory points based on how many turns you've held the objective for.
Yeah.
So if you've held it for 2 turns, you get two victory points. They're in the middle. Someone said earlier this is quite boring. I'd say this is actually quite a boring one, realistically. I think for interactivity, Nath, I think I wouldn't mind not seeing this. Out of the 4 that we've so far seen, I'd be interested in. Sorry, out of the 3 that we've seen, I'd be interested in this one. Just fucking off, to be honest.
Places of power.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because Nagash goes and sits on one, and and then he just goes and absolutely bullies the middle objective with the rest of his army, and then he wins the game. And Nagash is going to be in the game, and I want Nagash to be in the game. I don't want him to be out of the game. I just think that if I was writing a tournament pack, I would probably not choose this one because the other 2 are far enough apart. You can make plays.
Yeah, but I mean, he can do the same on Duality, really, can't he? I mean,
no, because they're further apart, and there's 2.
Yeah. Well, there's 3 here.
Well,
so
that's my point.
If he sat on one and then you can fight for the other 2, makes it. But
I think he keeps that one forever, doesn't he?
Yeah, but whereas in Duality, if he sits on the one, then the worst he's ever going to get is you're
never going to clear him. Yeah. That's a good point. That's a fair argument.
Unless you've got loads of guns. Whereas this one, at least, if he sits on one and you control the other 2, then.
So actually, that's a really good line. That's a really good line. Probably Duality isn't as good as this.
No, I mean, is this only heroes or is it not wizards as well? No, it's the arcane one as the wizards. Yeah,
this is just heroes.
Yeah, so I prefer this one. Okay. I don't like the ones where it's only wizards, obviously, because I'm just fuck you, wizards.
And again, so if you're new and you're listening to this, one of the key elements to think about, when you just decide whether or not you're going to get an army, is whether or not your army has access to wizards.
Yeah.
Right? And how does that play in? And again, I know someone like... I know the wonderful Mr. Haywo is making another get started into AOS sort of video, and maybe hopefully he'll see this first and then he'll go, okay, actually I could advise based on the battle plans, right?
Yeah, I mean you can. It certainly skews the ones. That's what I don't like about the wizard ones is that it certainly skews against.
It skews what army you bring to the tournament.
Yeah, because it's against armies that don't have access to magic, so. All the proper Dwarden, so the Caradron, the Dispossessed, and the Fire Slayers, but also armies like Khorne that also don't have magic and are very anti-magic. So
yeah, it's true. or potentially be able to have more artifacts, especially in a Cornate army. But they do have access to allies with wizards, right?
Yeah, but it's not very Cornate to take a wizard
I agree.
in your army. Just like I don't really like allying in an incanter into my dispossessed army. And
they literally built Azarheim. They've been together for the Stormcast and the Dispossessed are like bro fisting all day. Yeah, they've probably been like on like an 18 to 30s holiday together. They've been to Magaluf.
Yeah, I've dropped the incanter.
They're probably in a WhatsApp group together called the Squad. An incanter and a Dispossessed. They're just hanging out and they're like, "This is the best time."
Fuck those guys.
All right, okay, fine. So yeah, again, very similar to what we said before. The only thing to change up in this one is there are three objectives to hold.
Yeah.
And I don't think overloading on heroes at this stage of Age of Sigmar is particularly bad. But again, if a battle plan or a tournament pack has none of these, and the final one there, as you can see, is places of arcane power.
Yeah.
If it has none of these in, that would be a really, really interesting tournament because you're like, okay, heroes just aren't as important, which is really cool.
Yeah.
That said, there are some other packs that still benefit heroes, right? Other missions, sorry. So again, 24 inches apart, just like all normal for all of the heroes. So 24 inches apart, so that like rounds it off if you're interested. And then wizards and heroes with arcane items. Sorry, not arcane items, arcane artifacts. Artifacts of power is what it should be. Okay. Control objectives and have to stay within 3 inches of it. They take control of one by slaying a controlling character, and the number of turns is controlling objective equals VP. So this is very much like the one we saw before, just at an angle.
Yeah.
Do you prefer this one? Hate this one?
Again, not a fan of it just because it's mainly wizards, and I know you get heroes with arcane items, but again, or whatever, but again, they're fairly limited, so...
Especially armies that don't have access to, like for instance,
like battle to formations.
So all of my battalions for my Chaos Dwarves, as an example, for anecdotally, are pretty bad, and I would never take them. Which means I have one artifact in my army. So I've got one wizard and I've got one artifact, and my artifact goes on my general, and that's the way it works. So you really do have to. Whereas Sylvaneth are like got artifacts coming out there, Yazoo, and they've got wizards.
And everybody's a wizard.
Everyone's a wizard, and they're casting a million spells. Yeah. So you do have to understand that some people have like a polarity shift versus like difference than you.
Again, if you're a Khorne army, you probably only got one dude with an artifact. And everybody else.
Nah, the Gore Pilgrim. They like a Gore Pilgrim will have 3 artifact characters. Like, because it'll have 2 battalions inside of it most of the time.
Yeah.
So there's 3 artifacts there.
Yeah, I guess they have more battalions that you'll see them. But if you just see a bog standard Khorne army turn up,
or without battalions, they're gonna have the one
dude. It's all about you, dude. And then he dies, trips over in a Sylvaneth wood and dies, and then that's it.
Yeah, and if you look at armies like Kharadron Overlords, they struggle. They don't have any wizards, and also they don't really have many battalions that people take. Whereas if you do take any that, these scenarios do greatly impact our magic-heavy armies. So the big question is because we're at the end of the hero-centric ones now.
Yeah.
This is again. This is an ongoing conversation. So if you're listening in the chat, I'd love your thoughts. If you're watching in the YouTube comments, I'd love your thoughts there. And if you're listening back on the podcast, please tweet or Facebook us, and I'll put some threads up on both so people can comment and let us know. Would you like to see a tournament pack that always includes one of these hero-centric missions, or because you often tend to see one? Yeah. Because I think the TOs are aiming towards a kind of balance, right, of missions. Or do you think that actually they impact some armies quite heavily? Like, Nagash is strong regardless of the scenario, as an example. Well, a Kumquat is strong regardless of the scenario. So do they really need the benefit of the scenario? Like, which armies are doing better because of these scenarios? Or are none and some are being negatively impacted? That's the question.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm less keen on the hero-centric scenarios, but that's just like a gut feeling I have.
I wouldn't mind going. I wouldn't mind going to a tournament where they have none of these.
I wouldn't have a problem with that. It's not something But if it's there, then I don't have a problem with playing them. Even though I know that a lot of them, I pretty much got no chance on any of them with if I'm taking Dispossessed. But if I was going to choose one, I prefer the 3 places where at least so that's the one with the behemoths and So then at least your monsters can do something as well. So
which is cool. And I do agree with that statement. I personally think it wouldn't be too bad if a tournament had none of these in. Not all of the time, just some of the time. And that's the point of this show, right? Is for TOs to maybe have a listen and other people who may be thinking about putting a tournament and just going, actually, because one of the things that we haven't really talked about is when we look at so when me and LLV do the stats show, we talk about stats. One of the things that we don't take into account because the data is too much, and LLV already does a great work in my opinion, is the missions used. Right, and when it's a variety of missions, it will make some armies look way better. For instance, are all of the tournament results up to date now? Have they always included a hero-centric mission? And has that meant that some armies, if you took them out, is there more of a equated balance? You know what I mean? One of the things that people talk about is the horde meta, right, and having lots of horde units. And we're going to get onto those battle plans in a minute. And when you have a big group of those missions, then sweet. But if you get taken hold and knife to the heart, your gunline army isn't going to win. So the stats are skewed by the battle plans we play.
Yeah. If you played all of these hero ones, then the horde armies become less important, don't they? So
I agree. Bling Marine 13, great name, says, I prefer that you only have to deal with one hero mission, no wizard-centric missions. Not every army has been brought up to 2.0 and can even do magic spells at nearly the same level as more updated armies. I'd agree with that massively. Dummer says, I know these missions are on it, and it's very hard for my opponent to stop him from scoring all 5 rounds. Zinch is amazing at these missions, he's saying. And Adam John says, as a new player, the show today is incredibly helpful. No problem, bro. Rather than just picking models that I think look the most badass, I may need to put a bit more thought in than what I have in my army. Yeah, that's the point. So no one had done it. And I was like, okay, let's do this. I appreciate that. Coloru, looking forward to going 0-5 at Bobo with my Wanderers. So that's the hero heavy missions, realistically. And so I'd be very interested to see if people are interested in the different tournament styles, right? You could either have all of these in, one of them in, or none of them in, right? Next up, we're going to go to... let's just go back. We're going to move into random objectives. So, potentially one of the most controversial set of missions. Some people hate them, some people love them. Gift from the Heavens is the first one. Yeah. So your minimum deployment again is 24 inches apart, so that'll be the closest you'll be when you start. And scoring is random objectives. And in the hero phase of the second battle round, the objective lands, and then you score victory points equal to the number of the battle round. So if the battle round is battle round 3, you score 3 victory points, and it's for one objective that lands somewhere.
So one in each territory.
One in each territory. Yeah.
So you end up fighting for 2, and you score the battle round number. But only from turn 2. So
this is absolutely random. And we're going to talk about how you maybe potentially think about dealing with that in a moment. But before we do that, Dummer says he calls this fucked over by the heavens, is the name I like to call it sometimes. And Nikos, with a teleporting Seraphon army that can summon, says he loves it.
I bet he does. With those fucking chameleon skinks popping up all over the place.
Yeah, they're just like, I'm here, I've scored.
I've got your shit, and I'm going.
So when we get into non-hero missions, so this is like a little bit broader now, which is fun, and we get into a mission like this, I think it's fairly pivotal to be able to decide whether or not you can go first, or your opponent, if your opponent lets you go first, set yourself up in such a way that you can defend yourself or not get swamped in, I think is the key.
So a lot of people will just forego the first turn, waiting to see where the doodah drops. But then a lot of people will just swarm across the board. So some armies will just swarm across the board, pin you into wherever you've deployed.
Which is how that, like, so the Dreadwood is a great one from Sylvaneth, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're designed to alpha strike you.
Yeah.
They're like, hello, I'm here to alpha strike. Yeah. So when this comes up, they're like, oh, I don't really know where anything is, but I'll still try to fucking alpha strike you.
Yeah.
So it's a great anti-alpha strikes mission, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is and it isn't, because so normally your opponent's going to deploy just in the center, and I'm gonna dodge left, go left, go right, or just sit where I am.
I disagree.
You think they're just gonna spread out?
Fuck that, Dave. You just pick one block, yeah. You look, basically.
No, that's what I'm saying. So normally you'd pick the center block.
Yes. No. That I'm just. No, I agree. All right, let's be sensible first off.
So.
Yeah, go on.
Okay.
Before I use sarcasm.
They would castle up on that center.
Yeah, on 3 and 4, as you can see on the map.
Yeah, possibly. And then with the idea of, if it, hopefully it lands where you are, but it might land in either. In which case, it's less further to go than if you were the other side of the board.
Yeah.
But then if your opponent just comes and bang, surrounds you, you end up fighting them for 4 turns of the game, whilst they're capturing their one, and your one meanwhile lands in 1 and 2 or 5 and 6. Then by the time they've fought out of their little block, you've already got too far ahead on points. So you have to be careful of that. So I think it does favour. I mean, it gives the alpha strike. The problem is with the alpha strike, if it then lands right where
you're alpha striking, and they've castled up,
where they've castled
up,
and if they've castled up well enough to be able to hold you off and then fight out, then then it becomes a bit iffy. So it's nice. It's a 50-50. I quite like this one. The Dispossessed do struggle on it again, I noticed. But then they do struggle on all of the. They're not really built for scenario play.
Or Warhammer, some would say. Servitor High.
They are the best.
They are the bestest. So high mobility is incredibly useful in this scenario.
Yeah, it is,
absolutely, because your ability to reposition is key, because what you want to do, and also null deploys and fake deploys is another key one. So what I mean by that is you can put a screen up on the left, you put a screen up on the right, as an example, if you're looking at the map, and then what you can effectively do is just run along your back line with like big hordes of units, especially if you decide not to engage. One of the things you can do, which is really fun as a tactic, is deploy incredibly aggressively. So you just put everything on the line. Yeah. Your opponent gives you the first turn, and then just run backwards. Yeah, and then your opponent's like, "Fuck," because they haven't really committed to anything. Neither of you. But if you are going to win, which is important, you are going to have to go and grab objectives.
Yeah.
Now this one's pretty advantageous for shooting armies as well, because if they can be sat on the right place, they can start to clear screens. You can go, and this is really fun, you can go big risk, big reward as well with this scenario, which is what I was saying. So what you do is you put your whole army like centre and left, let's say. Yeah. So you've taken up 2/3 of the board, right? Yeah. And now you've got a 66% chance that you are overwhelmingly in charge of that part of the battlefield.
Yeah, and then you hope that your one lands your side and theirs lands directly opposite you.
Exactly. Yeah, and then you just do it. Yeah, you push one flank. Yeah. Now you can do that as well, and you can do that through clever deployment, and you can do that through that's fun. Right, now it's risky, and oftentimes if you'll see me playing this scenario, you'll see me just walking up and giggling, because I'm like, 66% of the time I'm going to win every time. And whereas what happens, and Nathan, have you seen this as well? Sometimes some people don't have armies that are able to control that level of board space, so they spread themselves out too thin, and they end up losing completely. So I would actually argue that as much as that seems like a crazy prospect, a safer bet is to take up 2/3 of the board in a healthier way than try to spread yourself too thinly.
Yeah, to take up all of your side. Yeah, it's quite cool. It's a cool scenario.
It's a great scenario.
I like it, actually.
Yeah, but it does. If you don't have mobility, like Nathan just said with Dispossessed, if you don't have... Hi, Pink Rob. By the way, if you wanted to check out some great coverage this week, you should listen to Pink Rob talk. if you want mobility, well, if you want to win this scenario, you're going to need mobility. Yeah, so deep striking, teleporting, or just movement 19. Plus run, plus charge. Sure. And Mr. Mephisto says, Gift from the Heavens is on my 5 least favourite scenarios. So that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
How everyone feels different, which is why I think it's interesting to do different tournament packs. So next up, after Gift from the Heavens, is basically the same Star Strike. Yeah?
Yeah.
So it's basically the same, but in this situation, there is one in the centre. The first objective lands in the centre, and the other 2 objectives land at the beginning of battle round 3.
Yeah.
So battle round 2, battle round 3. So again, Heralds of War.
Yeah, so the first one lands at the start of battle round 2, and it lands on the centre line in one of those 3 positions.
Oh, Velatron, thanks for donating 333 bits for Mr. Pink Rob's work this weekend. Thank you. And also, Pink Rob, thanks for doing work so that we benefit. Go on, what are you saying, Dave?
Yeah, so the first one lands start of battle round 2, and it lands on the centre line in one of those 3 positions, and then the other one lands, so then 2 more land.
Yeah.
And this is at the start of battle round 3.
Yeah.
Or is it the start of
No, start of your hero phase.
Each
person's hero phase.
And it lands on those second hash lines, so yeah.
Yeah.
So so this one is more, so it's a bit more like the other one, but you spread yourself out even further because now there's 3 objectives that you've got to fight over.
Mm-hmm. But most importantly, I think the biggest swing in this situation is the centre one. So the one that lands in the centre line, which happens in turn 2.
Actually, that's the one you're really fighting for.
It is.
Because hopefully you can just control your own.
Yeah.
But, I mean, obviously some armies that can swamp the board. So like the
Beast of Chaos list that we saw.
Yeah. They can just take all the objectives.
All the time, yeah. But interestingly, they're not great at holding their own back objective particularly well. So if you don't know what we're talking about, the Beast of Chaos list that we saw, that's being run this weekend at Blood Tide, that we saw win both the Masters here in the UK and also win the Sheffield Slaughter, effectively. So 2 units and 9 Alliant and 30 Zangor, but in Beast of Chaos. So then it's got +3 move because it's near a Brave Shame, and so these guys are moving like bonkers fast,
and they can summon stuff on. The thing is though, if the one that lands in their territory lands near the Herdstone, then that's great for them because then they're immune to Battle Shock. They've effectively got +1 rend when you're in. So yeah, the Herdstone's pretty sweet for that, actually.
Yeah, and also being immune to Battle Shock is also another great part of this particular scenario, because what you want to do is you want to hold as many of the objectives as possible. Also, if you guys are watching live on Twitch, thanks for joining us, or YouTube, wherever, do be aware that we have given moderation to some of our some of our community, and while Mr. Mephisto and I know to King Tristan are friends, he's had banned him. So again, high mobility is important, but I think less so in this one because you are fighting for the middle ground. Yeah. Because, like you've said, you're trying to hold your objective and fight into the centre. Now, some armies, a good example was Dean, who was fighting over in Northern Ireland. He ran like 120 Dryads in Sylvaneth army, and all he would do is just 1 drop, just fill the board with units so you couldn't move, and was like, I win the game, right? But what's interesting about this is because it doesn't happen until turn 2. You've got, because so what can happen is, and if we take Rich's example with Sylvaneth this weekend at the GT Heats, he scored 18 points in 2 turns, through objective play by going first, swamping the board, and then unfortunately just having too much killed, and then he was able to bring it back. But if he could just hold on till turn 3, he'll win that way.
Yeah.
However, Sylvaneth struggle a little bit with this scenario because they don't, while they can swamp you in the first turn, they can't score for that first turn.
Yeah.
So they're committing for no real payback. So if you can out attrition them in 2 turns, you're still going to win the game.
Yeah.
And that's true also for the Beast of Chaos swamp list to a degree.
Yeah.
But their mobility is also done.
And also they hit like a truck, so
yeah.
Whereas the Dryads don't hit; they hit more like a stick.
Whoa, Dryads are good, man.
Yeah,
they got exploding hits. They get +1 to hit. I think they're all right. An anonymous cheerer, thanks for donating 100 bits. got a little anonymous ghost thing as well. That's cool.
Yeah.
What is everyone's? So, what does everyone prefer? Star Strike or Gift from the Heavens? That's a question to the Twitch chat. Nathan, what do you prefer?
I think I prefer Gift from the Heavens, but although I think Star Strike is probably better for my armies, to be honest.
Okay.
I'll go. I guess Star Strike.
Star Strike?
Yeah, go with Star Strike. Yeah.
Okay. And then Joe Boom says Star Strike. Dr. Vulcan says Star Strike. So generally, Heralds of War much prefer Star Strike over Gift. Hook and Pin, right, kids? Good night, Hook and Pin. Loads of love. Okay. And then Nikos says either. Both are an easy win for me.
Yeah, they are.
All right.
Seraphon love these, don't they?
Oh, Mr. Mephisto, thanks for the 100-bit donation as well. He's only paying off Tristan so he doesn't ban him in the chat. Right, the next up, the last of the 4 is shifting objectives. My favourite scenario, because if you're movement 4, this is the bestest ever. Right, so you start 24 inches away, and also Pink Rob says Star Strike every time, arguably the best scenario. So there you go, that's his feelings.
Cool.
So you start a long ways, as you can see in the map.
Yeah.
Start 24 inches apart. There are 3 objectives in the centre, and at the start of each battle round, you flip a coin, or you roll a dice, whichever your preferred method is. I sometimes like to play Rochambeau while blindfolded. And see, rock, paper, scissors. Whichever the situation. And all the other objectives are worth 1 victory point, and the primary objective is worth 3 victory points.
Yeah.
So it is all about flooding the board in this scenario and holding on there. Now, what you can do if you go first is you can just pin your opponent back so they can't even get within the objective range.
That's right.
Which is real boring, but very useful.
Yeah.
But what I do really, really like about this is because it's only 12 inches to the centre line, us movement 4 armies have a little bit more hope.
Yeah. Although there is a deep backfield, but then the backfield is far away from the objectives. So
yeah. So what Nathan means by that, I think, is by having a deep backfield, because you would effectively deploy as many wounds or bodies on the front line as possible. Because what you're looking to do is run them onto those objectives and hold as long as possible. If that means you've left your backfield free, it means that a sneaky unit of 40 to 60 sequitors, different units, sorry, you have 20, could drop at the back and charge you in the rear, which you may not be expecting. So there's things to think about with deep striking armies there as well. And also what's difficult is if they deep strike and attack you at the back, not looking to kill you, but just pin you.
Yeah.
But you can then run backwards, right, onto the objectives.
Yeah.
And that's quite important.
Yeah, but it just means so, like with your gun line, that you have to protect your back as well as your front with your chaff.
Yeah. So if you imagine that really panicked Marine in every movie where he's doing this, he's just rotating around. He's just that's how you play this scenario. Just and if you're listening to this on the podcast and you'd like a bit of exercise, just stand up, just spin in a circle, pretending you're holding a pretend gun, and that's what you got to think about. Though.
If you pretend you're holding a pretend gun, does that mean you're holding a real gun?
Great question.
Double negative.
I don't know. What happens if I shoot it in the woods? So you want a lot of bodies to hold this scenario as well, right? Yeah. Okay. But it does flip randomly. So once you have committed, so I would commit to the centre and one of the objectives and just hope to high heaven. Yeah, which is why some people don't like these. So.
It doesn't always work that way, but they are pretty close to each other, and it does tend to be a big punch up in the centre most of the time, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Yeah. It does. This is mosh pit in the middle all day long. Yeah. I like this though because especially short range shooting is in effect, and if it is in there, I'd be careful because high battle Choed. Because I love this scenario with my Chaos Dwarves. I'm just like 75 lives are going to murder the fuck out of whatever you put on that objective. So carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on. Yeah. Next up, get ready. It's the bestest mission in the game. It's the relocation orb. Affectionately also nicknamed the Greased Up Goblin. So now there is a bonus if you have heroes or wizards.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you have wizards or heroes with artifacts, there is a bonus because they count as 20 for holding the objective.
Yeah.
This one and its inclusion in tournament packs is an interesting conversation. Let's talk about that at the end. Let's start off with how do we win it? So, as you can see on the map, it goes a variety of fucking places. And also, before you start playing this mission, agree with your opponent which way up you're going to hold the book that you're referencing.
Yeah. Who's player A, who's player B?
Yeah, because I've seen people swapping the book around and then it ending up in places where it's impossible for it to be. And I'm like, how have you got it to there? So I think you should... yeah. Wizards score with artifacts power. At the end of each battle round, the objective moves 12 inches if you roll a 2 or a 5. Yeah, because each one of those little diagonal arrows is 12 inches.
Yeah.
However, if you roll a 1 or a 6, it keeps moving, so it can end up all across the board. You lose control at the end of a battle round, and then whoever goes first in a battle round will score 1 VP if they control it, and you'll score 2 VPs if you control it in the second battle round. The second, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think of this, Nath? Number one, is it fun?
It's fun as fuck, and I really like the who goes first scores half, and I do like it, but then I don't like it
It's fair.
because
It's really fair.
I like it when I win priority and I give priority to my opponent, but I hate it when they win priority and they keep giving it to me, and I can only score 1 gold.
Yeah, so the priority roll is really interesting here.
Yeah, so that's pretty hard. And obviously, you just have to be able to chase that little fucker around, and it can be a struggle for some armies again. Yeah, and but it is fun to play. I don't know how. You can obviously build lists to play this mission, and if you know that it's coming, or there's the chance that it'll be a mission that you'll play, then you should, and you want to win the tournament, then you should build your list accordingly. So you should build mobile armies, and mobile wizards are the boss again, aren't they?
Yeah. So it's 3 VPs if you get the second, actually, but the overlay is wrong there. I made a mistake, sorry. So Nathan's right, and actually a key tenet for all of these random objectives is mobility, because what you're going to want to do is redeploy your power, whether that be a dragon, whether that be a unit of 30 bloodletters, whatever it is. They need to be somewhere else. Now, mobility is almost always the key to the game anyway.
Yeah.
And obviously we said that same thing on the heroes, but it's what's mobile, right? Like heroes being mobile or survivable in the other missions is important. In this, being able to take whatever your, especially wounds or your blocks, and putting them in positions are super important. And some armies, for instance, Gits, with their ability, they could, with their Hand of Gork, they can control huge volumes of board space. So not only is mobility important in these missions, board control is also really important as well. Yeah. So having lots of bodies and being able to control a board, so your opponent can't get to wherever it might go, is really important, especially if you can afford to lose a bit of that board space, give your opponent the next turn, and get the 3 victory points yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are loads of armies that have those options in there. Again, if this,
but there are armies that don't.
But then that's true. Then that's true for I think the bit we talked about really with all of these randomized ones is some armies have dumb amounts of redeployment.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy. So there's that imbalance, which again, if you're trying to make not a balanced tournament pack, but kind of more like every army could potentially win tournament pack, you would maybe try and put one of these in each one. So, but so far, mobility's been kind of a key issue, right?
Mobility is always key with this, because the majority of all the battle plans are really about objectives, and they're generally spread out. So yeah.
So mobility is always key.
Yeah, got to move around to get to them or defend them.
Go on.
But yeah, you're right about the board control, and also a lot of people when they play it are are only thinking about where the objective is on the board and not where it's going to be the next turn, which is something that Dispossessed Dan, always when he's talking about this scenario, is he's always talking about where it's going to be the next turn, because the best, with good odds that it's going to be in one of two places, unless one.
Yeah, so it's a two-thirds chance it's going to be in one of two places. Yeah.
So you've got a good chance that it's going to, that it's going to be either there or there, and you can then play your turn accordingly.
Yeah. Adam Johns asked a really good question. Anyone know what the high, average, low movement is? So movement 4 is basically a dwarven movement, and then it can go anywhere up to absolutely dumb, like 32 inches. So there's the capacity to go like very fast, with the average fast being 16, because there's quite a lot of units now that are around movement 16, and the average slow would be something like 6 to 8. So I think 8's the kind of the average slow. Anything below 8 is very slow, and I would say 8 is the beginning of medium. I would say 8 to 14, and then 14 to 16 is like fast, very fast.
Yeah, although the difference between 4 and 6 is quite massive.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Like I'm not saying it's not. I just think I think this movement 6 stuff is great. But then when it gets all the way up to around 7s and 8s,
anything over movement 12 is becomes fast enough that it's fast.
Yeah, but some of it's overwhelming. When it's movement 16 to 20, you're playing almost two different games, and then when you do have like that movement versus movement 4, you're like, okay then, you're a nippy fucker, you are. Yeah. And that's a good point as well, Dan Elkington. Thanks very much. There is also the fly keyword. That's also another important tenet in this as well. Having the fly keyword, so being able to jump over screens. So Nighthaunt are always really good, and their units are really good in my opinion, because they're able to fly over stuff. Like my Kadai, I love that they're flying. So my Kadai Fireborn from Chaos Dwarves. So the fly part is super important. And if you are developing lists for board control, you do have to ask yourself, well, what do I do when my opponent has got 9 eels? And as we saw from James this weekend, kicking dick, just doing great, he's got flying, absolute battering rams in those offensive Idnethipkin eels, and they just go and wipe stuff off the board.
Yeah.
And it's because they're like, I will charge what I wish to charge, because I'm movement 16 and I fly. Fuck you. Which is great. But you have to be aware of it. Yeah. Okay, I think that's that. I think that's cool. Board control for this is important. Mobility is important. Planning for where it's going to be, not where it is important. I think the only other element I can add to this is if you are playing the new game, which is 5 to 6 endless spells, and a load of luck, these other scenarios are even more impactful in that you're going to be able to do a bunch of really interesting stuff with the priority roll, because if you're playing like a Skaven list, I think in particular, and you're taking 4 to 5 endless spells, or again you're playing a more than 5 endless spells, 5 beyond. 4 to 5 I think is the bottom end, but then anything beyond that's insane. You can kind of make your opponent go, I don't know how I'm going to win, or what I'm going to do, or if I should take a turn, or so. I think there's a sub game there which adds into this chaos. Depends whether or not you like chaos. Most wargamers hate chaos, right?
Yeah, this certainly makes it more uncertain.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah, which I like, but most wargamers are against, right? So Nathan, now we've gone through, and so again for you guys, that is the 4 missions which kind of account for, as you can see there, random objectives. What do you think about those in total? Have we got like an overview, do you think?
They're pretty fun to play all the time. I do enjoy playing them for the fun aspect, but quite often I'll play some of them and I'll be totally defeated by the roll of the dice as to where the objective goes. That's just the way it goes, I guess.
Just the way it goes, yeah. Gabby says, I love chaos. This relocation chart is too ordered if anything.
Yeah.
All right.
Just throw a dart at the table.
So again, a tournament with all of those in would be really fun.
Would be mental.
Would be really
great,
fun.
Yeah.
And I actually wonder whether or not a tournament should have them in at all if they were going to go for a more balanced pack. But again,
you can build a list that would play them really well, but then sometimes no matter how well the list is built, there would still be you could roll the dice and you'd still be screwed over by the dice, especially by the relocating orb one.
I agree. All right, so next up we're going to talk about progressive scoring.
Yeah.
If you're key for that, so that's escalation, border war, total conquest, battle for the past, total commitment, focal points, and magical supremacy, which is kind of a hero-centric one anyway. So first up, escalation. There you go. So that's from the General's Handbook, and you start 24 inches apart, and there are 4 objectives on the board, and it's variable points. Your objective is worth 1 victory point. The 2 to the left and right are worth 2 victory points, and their objective is worth. And their objective is worth 4 victory points.
So it's Battle for the Pass.
Battle for the Pass. I like this a lot. Loads and loads and loads. But I would say, if you guys are looking at the map, one of the key elements for this is making sure you don't get deep struck. I think that's the important, because you've got quite a large backfield again, and your objective. It's really. Would you say it's a game of? Would you say it's a game of trying to fight over the 2 middle objectives, or would you say it's a game of trying to make them overcommit so their back objective is free? Or would you say it depends on your army build?
Again, it depends on your army build, what you can do. But yeah, generally you try and hold your own and fight for the centre too, but always keeping an eye on if you can blast through and nick their own, at least for a turn, because that can be devastating. But again, I mean, some armies are going to love this, like Nikos's nicking gold from underneath people's feet.
And unarguably hordes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hordes.
Yeah, immune to battle shock hordes will lap this up. So number of bodies around an objective, and you could just put so many. In fact, you can put so many that you can actually screen out your opponent from even putting any bodies nearby. And because the 2 centre objectives are fairly close, you can kind of threaten from the backfield with monsters or with shooting. Yeah. So you've got lots of options. What I like about this is my quote for this objective is for this battle plan is Nathan's old school one, that objectives are bait. Because really, people have to start to fight. Now, when I played Nick Thompson from US 10, he did something really cool with Kinrian Heartrenders, where in his first turn, instead of overcommitting with his Daughters of Cain army, he just put 2 units of Heartrenders in the centre. And they're like shitty 80-point units, but they held the objectives, right? So now I had to go and commit with something that's quite expensive, but then that puts me in threat range of his good stuff, right? Because most things, as we said, you start 24 inches apart. Most things don't end up being close enough that you can definitely agree for the charge on the first turn. So if you can put something a little bit sacrificial in the centre, and then your opponent then has to go and take it off, otherwise they're just losing points, you can then countercharge, which is what's a really good tactic against the Gristlegore General. We talked about the 5 or 6 dragons. Well, if they have to put an expensive dragon somewhere to go and clear off 80 points, and then you can counterattack. For me, this is a great counterattacking scenario.
Yeah.
I love this for counterattacking.
Yeah, I guess it's not dissimilar to shifting objectives. Again, because it's that layout, it's the Battle for the Pass layout. You've got quite a concentrated front that you're fighting on. But again, like we said, it's the deep backfield that you've just got to be careful of.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And also flying units.
Yeah. Flying units and units that can just redeploy. So, like the Seraphon, teleport, or
you're playing in a realm that can allow you to redeploy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you play this in the realm of
Uglu. Yeah.
Then
So again, I would say that these scenarios, and this will be a key tenet for most of these scenarios. I think I've said key tenet too much. Maybe that's one of my key tenets. Is numbers and bodies on the board. Board control is really important here, in my opinion. But also those cheap little. You don't see a Daughters of Cain list without those Heartrenders.
Yeah, Yeah.
Because this is what they do. They go and hold an objective, and then they just get charged, right?
Yeah.
So, like, and that can be... So if you drop those 2 units on the first turn, looking to countercharge, you rock up 5 victory points, your objective and those 2 centre ones. Yeah. And then they have to commit, and they maybe overcommit, and now you're laughing. So just use that as a suggestion. That's my plan. So, yeah, that's Battle for the Pass. Next up, Total Commitment. So this is General's Handbook 2018. This has got one of those funky rules, which most don't, which is no deep striking allowed. Okay, so you have to stay on the board. There are 4 objectives. Dan Elkington, thanks for subscribing. Appreciate the lots. He also said he enjoys the show. He's enjoying this one. So thanks. Score at the end of your turn, and you score 1 victory point for your objectives, and you score 3 victory points for their objectives. All right, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so that's cool. Obviously promotes you being defensive and aggressive. So you've got to get over there and nick an objective for at least a turn.
But you only have to do it in the one place.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that. What you'll find is a lot of people will go really hard on one flank, left or right, and then all they're looking to do is just hold their objective for a turn.
Yeah. But if they're pushing hard on one flank, then sometimes it leaves them exposed on the other side. So,
yeah. And especially armies that require like AoE buffs can struggle a little bit in this. So you'll find, and if you haven't ever played this, I suggest you at least get your army out on the tabletop and put your army down how it normally would play, which is like everything close to each other so you can keep on all your buffs on it, and then look at this and go, oh no.
Everybody's spread out.
Everyone's super spread out. So really ask yourself, can you split your army into 2?
Yeah, because they are far apart. I mean, quite often if you deploy in the centre and then have scoring units on the flanks of your armies, holding those, and then depending on how your enemy fights, you can react from the centre better, left or right. But at the same time, you can also threaten forwards, left or right. So that's not a bad way to play this one.
No, not at all. Again, the centre becomes a really interesting... movement is key, as always. But what's nice about this, compared to some of the other scenarios, is you only start 18 inches apart in this case.
Yeah.
So if you are one of those stuntier fellas, and we've said movement in every battle plan, so I'm hoping if you are new, you've really started to understand how important it is. This is a little bit nicer, but then that means your opponent, who's already bloody fast, is now in a far more advantageous position.
Yeah.
So you need to be conscious of that and know that they're definitely going to get those charges off. So something that you can read on the website and something that's really interesting to know is learning how to make multiple layers of screens or go in defense in depth. So you've got like two buffs or 2 layers that you want to feed, and also being able to split your army in 2.
Yeah.
This is tough.
There's that, and I mean, the also thing about this is the no deep striking thing is quite a huge thing, especially for some armies where that is their allegiance ability. So like Stormcast and Nighthaunt, it really scuppers their just the way they operate, really. So,
it does. Yeah. Next up, I like this one, and potentially would always include it in a battle plan for that reason. You do tend to see this in a tournament. You tend to see this in a lot of tournaments.
Yeah. Well, I dislike it because of the no deep striking thing, to be honest.
You don't like that?
No.
So explain to me why.
Well, but just in the same way that I don't like the ones that concentrate on the wizards. So this one really is skewed against Nighthaunt and Stormcast, and so I just think that there's better ones than this. Why it just picks on those 2? It just really hammers their allegiance abilities,
and only there specifically. Yeah. All right, that's a really fair point. Okay, that's good. Colorado says, I'm yet to lose total commitment with allegiance, and Iron Front Alex says, my Nighthaunt hates this mission. So, Nathan, I've got to say that I do mirror your feelings there. I think that's a really solid point. Not having this in a pack would actually be advantageous, because maybe some of those armies that could use deep striking better.
That's just the way they play, and it's just been taken away from them, really.
Hi, JJ. Right, next up is Focal points. I like this. I gotta say, I like this a lot. So again, from the General's Handbook, you start 18 inches apart as always, but on a diagonal, as you can see on screen. Scoring, you score at the end of your turn. If you control any objective, it's 1 victory point. If you control the center, it's worth 2. And then if you control the two of the opposing objectives to each other, you score 3 victory points. I like this one loads. I think this is a game of trades. I think this mission is really interesting, and if you want to learn about scenario play and sacrificing units to gain advantage, I think this one's really good. But I also think it massively is distorted by deep striking armies and armies that have great board control, because they can flood the board so well that you aren't able to really engage back.
Yeah, I like it too. I don't know if the deep striking... I mean, because... So the objectives are fairly close together. So your 2 objectives aren't that far apart. And then the centre one is not that far from anybody either.
No.
So you've got that little triangle, which is quite cool. You can have a closed army, like a compact army, and it can fight within that triangle. And then... If it fights really well and if you can control that triangle, then you should win.
Yes.
So if stuff deep strikes around you and just surrounds you, but you hold them off and fight, then it's quite cool. It's like a last stand sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But then, but if you can do a lightning strike around somebody's flank and nick one of their objectives, I really enjoy this one as well. Yeah.
I agree. I would say someone was asking a question earlier about what should be in the new start pack of tournaments for like a 1-dayer, and I think focal points would be probably the ones that I would put in.
Yeah, it's possibly one of my favourites as well. Yeah.
I think so. I think there's so much trading that occurs, and especially with the double with the priority roll mechanic that we have in Age of Sigmar, there's so much give and take.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's enough room. Because you are kind of trying to fight for that centre objective because it's worth 2.
Yeah.
And I think a fairly good, like you said, tactic is to go for the centre. Some people tend to get greedy. But what you can do is you can weight your army quite heavily at the bottom or to the side, and then you can try and
swing around.
Swing around. So you're constantly threatening that as well. And you can be a bit tricksy. You can threaten in the centre and then actually go like
all the way through.
All the way through. And some people aren't expecting that. And then they end up just being like surrounded, and they're like, "Oh no, this wasn't the plan."
It's good, because you can give people loads of different choices. You can make
Again, great scenario for endless spells, because you're closer as well. 18 inches for endless spells is really solid as well.
It becomes crazy when you fill the ball. That centre up with endless spells, and then you've got to fight in there. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Dudo Shortgates asks, what do you mean by trading? I've heard you talk about it a fair bit. So I apologise, because that's not something we've explained before, and probably that's just my own term for it. So what that would be is sometimes I would put... It's very much the example I gave earlier with the heart renders. So I would take a very cheap unit, something that's, say, 80 points, to go and hold an objective, which means my opponent then has to commit something to trade with me to go and hold that objective. And if I can make it so that my trade is good enough for me, I'm going to be able to be in an advantageous position a few turns down the line. Like, I want to trade an 80-point unit to commit his 400-point dragon, and then I want to commit my 500 points of shooting to murder that dragon, and then go and hold it again with another 80-point unit or something similar. So sometimes it's trading the objective points as well. It's trading the objective points for a turn, hoping to just win to maybe kill a few units a couple of turns down the line. And then
sometimes it's you giving up a 400-point model yourself, but it's going to take them 2 turns, and all you're going to gain is maybe 100 points worth of victory points, but it's going to take them a turn or 2 to get through your Maw Crush or whatever it is that you've charged into them. And by that time you've got board position, and you've got enough. You've just been racking up points. So
It's effectively what it is. Effectively, just using your, just like every good general, right? Yeah, you're using your army to secure the mission. That's what I mean. So I hope that makes sense. But again, that's my term probably, or I'm sure lots of people use it. It's used in chess and other things. It's some people do it via points, but that's not the right way to do it. It's about board control and positioning's the term. So what you have in a game, and you can read all this on. In the workbook or on the Wargaming website, what you have inside of a Warhammer game is you have a position and you have like a tempo. So like your position is either superior or inferior to your opponent. Now you might both not fucking know what it is, as is often the case. And as a commentator, I rarely know. But there are ways to work out or try to be in an advantageous position, and then what you're looking to do is trade to constantly increase or improve that position. Yeah. So I hope that helps. I like this mission loads, but we'll move on.
Yeah.
So focal points. Again, you need bodies. You also need a lot of bodies for this, and because it's got 5 objectives, that's important as well. A spread of units, even sometimes having like a little 5-wound hero or another 10-man squad of something, just so that they're in a position to hold.
Yeah, you want multiple units, but also you want some nice big units.
Yeah. Right, next up is magical supremacy. Yeah, from malign sorcery.
Oh, okay.
You pick. If you're anywhere on the board and you dispel it or unbind an endless spell, 1 VP for you too. Right? Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
And it says there on the overlay 2 VP for playing a wizard, but it actually means 2 VP for slaying a wizard within 6 inches of an objective, and 1 VP for holding an objective.
That's cool. Yeah, that's the first time I've seen it, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
So what do you guys think of that? Do you like it?
Yeah.
No?
I mean, it's all about wizards again, so it's another wizard one.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It looks pretty fun. It looks fun. I look forward to actually having a game with this.
Okay, good. All right. We've been live the whole time. I don't think we dropped. Did we drop out? I hope we didn't drop out.
Yeah, it looks like it's dropped on this one.
God's sakes. Okay. All right. That's lame. Sorry, dudes. But the podcast guys, you're all good. At the tournament, do they favour Nagash list? Yeah, Nagash would love this.
Yeah.
Right. But also just slaying wizards, having unbinds. It's dumb. It is dumb. Probably that's why it's not at missions, but it also would be really cool.
Yeah, it looks fun. It does look more fun than serious.
Yeah. We'll just leave it there. But you need loads of wizards for this one if you're going to have it, and I've never seen it at a tournament. So
you get victory points if you kill wizards.
Yeah, 2 victory points. Right.
If you
get your witch hunters out.
So even if you shoot them.
Huh?
So if you shoot a wizard and he's within 6, that's not. So it's not quite so wizard centric.
No, that's why I put it in progressive, because you also get VPs for holding objectives as well, right?
But you can only hold them if you're a wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
All right. Cool. And then you've got Blood and Glory, right? Oh no! Apparently this hasn't got any objectives on it. Oh bloody hell! Should have checked these. It's a problem with doing this all day. It's a conclusive win, right? So there are 4. There are meant to be 4 objectives on the map.
That's right.
They're missing. I will make sure I change this. It's a nice thing about it breaking several times. I think I'm just going to re-upload it, right? I'll put the right mission overlay. So don't listen to that part. It's meant to have 4 objectives, and then so that would mean we're in a different.
Yeah, we've gone into the conclusive.
Yeah. So we're not doing them right. No, Blood and Glory.
Yeah, it's one of the.
That's a conclusive one. Yeah. Okay. So overall, those are the ones that are progressive. What do you think of those?
Yeah, they're fun. Blood and Glory is a conclusive one. So
yeah, it is.
Have we had Border War?
We have not had Border War. There we go. Border War.
There you go.
Which is the same. Thanks very much for that. So next up we've got Border War, which is the same as
focal points.
Focal point. No, not focal points.
No, it's not really. It's the same as Battle for the Past.
Yeah, exactly. No. But you just deploy somewhere else.
Yeah.
And basically the same tactics.
Yeah, but you're more spread out, so it does actually become a different game just because you're playing the board lengthways.
It does become massive. Yeah, like you said, there's a small frontage before, and then obviously in this you've got a very large frontage.
Yeah, your flanks become more exposed, definitely in this.
And being more spread out is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so if I'm playing the Battle for the Past one with dwarves or a gun line, it just feels like you're more in control, whereas this one, your flanks become a lot more exposed, and a mobile army it favours them again because they can get around flanks and threaten that back objective as well as split, because you tend to get more split up going for the two centre ones than you do in the Battle of the Past one where they're closer together.
Yeah, like Matt Pashby, hi Matt, how you doing? Says in the chat, your flanks, show me your flanks all day long. And Banana Timmy says, Ghoul Patrol. Ghoul Patrol love a bit of this. And also, Beast of Chaos would like this, because they can come on from the board edge. I mean, you're consistently performing and almost constant every tournament. Wanderer's Army. Also love this scenario. But you're right, you do tend to get split up quite a lot. And also, you can't really forget that some people and some armies, what they tend to do is they just make a beeline for your objective.
Yeah, straight down the centre.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't, if I were you, make your centre too unsafe. I'd hold that. That would be my key. I'd be like, right, I'm holding the centre, and I would try to put. Again, you'd be able to trade with cheap units on the side, or they have to be very mobile. I like this because, like, you would have to get quite strung out, and you can also ball control quite well, right? You can like zone them out quite nicely from those objectives, and then keep threatening the centre. And shooting armies would love this scenario, I think, because everything's in the middle.
Yeah, but again, not as much as they would love Battle for the Past.
No, you're right. You're right. You can go straight for the centre. Got to give the flank some love first, says Matt Patrick. Everyone knows that. I think now we've done. Maybe I've been clicking too fast. Have we done Total Conquest? No, Total Conquest is another one. I bloody did skip. I'm so sorry. This is why we need a professional button pusher. I'm not skilled. I normally push buttons every 3 minutes. This is a bit stressful for me. So, Total Conquest, the worst mission in the game because of how you have to deploy, as you can see from the map.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Our graphic designer did not enjoy
this
one in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, it's a weird map. So yeah, the minimum distance that you're ever away from your opponent is 18 inches. But apart from that, you're weird distance apart.
Yeah, it's all curves.
It's all curves. And then 1 VP equals hold an objective at the end of your turn, and then a bonus VP for taking control of the previously held objective. So you only get 1 VP every turn for holding on to these objectives. So that's the situation there. Yeah. What do you think of this?
Again, it's much the same as the others. It's just the deployment zone is a bit wanky.
It is. But very interesting, actually, because if you look at the thin edges at the bottom and the left, you could put some very scary units in there to threaten... like a good example would be Enlightened, right? So Enlightened are a very scary unit that you don't really want to get in range of much. So if we're looking at the map and look at the bottom left-hand corner, if I was an Enlightened player, I would probably put them down there. Because I'd be like, oh, do you want to try and move on to this objective? Because this dickhead unit's going to come and just beat the fuck out of you. Yeah. So that's worrying. Whereas you can't really get a horde of bloodletters in there.
No. Yeah, it's quite good for little, like you say, little scary mobile flanking units.
Yes. Yeah, very, very scary for those sorts of units. Elite units that can do loads and loads of damage. So your Trog herds, that's a joke.
They have to be
some of the people in other
quite
countries.
A small base. and quite quick as well.
Yeah. Matt Pesci, thanks very much. I think you're a fairly enlightened player. I appreciate that. That's sweet of you. But apart from that, it plays very much similar to the rest of these progressive.
Yeah.
Apart from, you have to commit early because you need as many points as possible because you can't like rack them all up at the end.
Yeah.
So you really only have to hold 3 of them till like turn 3, and you're probably going to win. But those bonuses for the bonus BP, which most people forget for taking an objective off your opponent.
Oh yes, yeah. So it's quite nice to be able to like give an objective away and then take it for that extra point.
Yes,
especially if it means you killing stuff at the same time. So if you leave an objective exposed, so you don't lose anything, and you don't actually control it. So you don't give it to them; they're just taking control of it. So early on in the game, and if they take it with a small unit, or they commit a force in there, and then you can kill. So you're getting 2 things for the price. Yeah. So you're getting the extra points and you're also killing something.
This is an example where trading can be like a negative really in winning the tournament. So you're going to have to be super careful in what you do start to commit into those places. So you maybe want to go a little bit gingerly on the objectives and take out your opponent's key threats before you you can hold them as well, but you probably should focus on shutting down your opponent's ability to take the objectives off you.
Yeah.
Instead of just holding on to the objectives like some of the other missions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, fucking kill that guy. Yeah. So there we go. Hi to Templar. Thank you for also using the jet emoji. Don't forget, you guys have all got access to the jet emoji now. And thanks for subscribing. Again, you start 18 inches apart, so just something to be aware of, right? And then Battle for the Pass. We've done that. Yeah. We've done Total Commitment. So, no, we've done them all now. Fuck that one up, didn't I? So apologies. And then finally, not at all finally, we've got 5 missions left to do. Nathan, what do you want to do? Conclusive wins or burning objectives?
Let's go on with the conclusive wins, shall we?
Conclusive wins. So you've got a Blood and Glory. There it is. Again, it's missing the map, as stated previously. I'll double check. Nath, do you know how this one works? Do you want to tell people?
So there's 4 objectives, and they're spread out in each. They're spread out in the 4 corners, really. So it's a bit like. Oh heck, I can't remember all their names. Anyway, so they are spread out quite far from each other.
They are,
and this is the conclusive one. So you have to, so you win it if you control all 4, but it's only from battle round 3. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so you can only win this scenario if you control all 4 objectives.
Yeah.
Which you can see on the map. I'm going to re-upload this on YouTube and people can watch it on the map.
And then it's most number of models to control it.
Yeah.
So this used to be one of the best battle plans for the Moon Clan. They used to just
go and sit on all,
just go and bunker up in the middle, and then suddenly turn 3 just go
and run onto the objectives because it's immediate, right?
Yeah. Just retreat onto objectives, run onto objectives, pop fanatics out that weren't attacking anything or blocking anything, just
scoring
bodies into places.
So one of the really interesting things about having these in a tournament pack is a lot of TOs tend to include one of these 3 missions, because what it does is it gives them a little bit more of a granular top. So it means they don't have to use as many secondaries to decide who wins. What I mean by that is, again, if you're new, if you're playing 5 games at a tournament and there's 200 players like there will be at something like Bobo this year, what will happen is by the 5th game, several people may have won all 5 games.
Yeah.
And now some tournaments will use things like Sports versus Best Painted to differentiate, but that doesn't really give you a good calculation on who the best general is. So sometimes it's kill points, or sometimes it's Games Workshop secondaries missions, or whatever it might be. However, this in a tournament pack is normally included, or one of the other 2 missions, because you have to win it. And arguably, Nath, this one's harder to win than the other 2.
Yeah.
I think.
Arguably, yeah.
Arguably. Because you start 24 inches apart, and you can't, even if you commit early with something like the Beast of Chaos list that we've seen previously, or Bloodletter Bombs, if you're a Dan Ford of old school, the opponent's still got 2 turns to counter engage and take it back off you. So it becomes a very, very dicey couple of turns, which is quite fun.
Yeah.
It's quite cagey, right?
Yeah.
But that's why they tend to be included.
Yeah, it's the second half of turn 2 is very important because once anybody controls them, all 4 in turn 3. So even at the beginning of turn 3. So at the end of turn 2, if you take the second half of turn 2, you can get into a position where immediately going into turn 3 you control all 4 and then you just win. So
yeah. So and you're absolutely right. So, but there's still at least 2 turns each for something to happen there, right? And ball control is really important for this in loads of different ways. Not only for holding objectives, but stopping your opponent holding objectives.
Yeah,
that's quite important. And again, bodies on the board are really important for this. I like this, to be honest. I don't know if I'd hate a tournament that had 3 of these these 3 types of scenarios. I think it would be interesting. And I think, yes, it would be a little bit polarising, but you do have to design armies that can hold and take.
Yeah.
Talking about that. Take and hold. So you start 24 inches apart. It's 2 objectives, 1 in your deployment, 1 in their deployment. And you basically, at starting Battle Round 3, if you hold both, then you win the game. And you score if you have a minimum of 5 models. They can be from separate units. And you outnumber your opponent within 6 inches of the objective. So you've got to outnumber your opponent on both objectives with 5 or more models from any units to win this.
Yeah.
What do you think of this, being a slow army?
Again, I mean, they're all a struggle for a slow army.
Agreed.
But I like playing this one, actually. It does tend to go to turn 5, and so armies that last the battle better tend to play this one quite well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So attrition armies work really well here.
Yeah. So I do like it. Yeah.
And it's very, very similar, but not not exactly the same as the next one, which is Knife to the Heart.
Yeah.
So it's the same, but it's just a different deployment. It's wider, and then you're more susceptible to being deep struck at the back of the board.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But you win at the start of the 3rd battle round, and you have to hold both objectives.
Yeah. And this one you're actually further away from each other as well. The 2 objectives, they're like opposites, so
they're deeper in. So more movement is even better.
Yeah.
In this situation.
Yeah.
I know better is not a word. So these really, if they're in a tournament pack, you have to ask yourself, how do I get quite a large number of wounds onto an objective? If either of those 2, you're playing Border War, you've got to ask yourself, am I any good at Warhammer? But what do you think about having them in tournament packs?
I like them. I like playing them. I like playing Border War the most, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think playing Knife to the Heart is quite fun.
I think it goes Border War, Knife to the Heart, and then Take and Hold. Realistically, but it does provide its own challenges. Take and Hold, but I would say that I wouldn't mind, and often you only see one, but I wouldn't mind both Border War and Knife to the Heart being inside of a tournament, especially to winnow down how many people could win, because it's a conclusive win or a minor. So I think it's good.
Yeah. You definitely see a lot more minor victories when you got those in the pack. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Final up is so those are your conclusive wins, and something to think about is how do I go and conclusively win the game, and can I? Which is interesting. And then the final 2 is burning objectives.
Yeah.
So you've got. We'll start before we go to the least of them all. We'll go to Scorched Earth. So you're unable to burn them until turn 2. You start 18 inches apart, and you get 1 victory point per objective that you control at the end of your turn, or you can burn 1 and you can score D3 victory points.
But you can only burn
your opponents.
Ones,
So what do you think of this one?
So again, favours armies that are mobile. We just say the same words for everyone. But yeah, just flooding across the board, burning it from under their feet if you can get numbers across the board. But then you've also got to be aware that you've got to defend. It's one that favours armies that have got numbers, really. The Bloodletters were famous for this one, and the Murder Host, weren't they? Running around burning stuff. So yeah, but I think chaff screens are important for this, and for in all of these, if you can chaff your bigger blocks so that you don't get overwhelmed early on, and then fight your way out, then yeah. And then things that can kill hordes as well are pretty important. If you don't have your own hordes, if you've got answers for hordes and answers that work very quickly, so things like decimators and stuff like that, that'll they need to work quickly, because if you don't, then they'll start burning your objectives.
Agreed. Yeah, I think this is really hard, and this really benefits horde armies, right?
Yeah.
Having loads of models on the board in the right places is just so much fun. But you have to be super aware that, like, if you do have an elite army, this can be a very hard mission to win.
These are hard. These burning objectives are hard for the elite armies, because they don't have the bodies to
hold the objectives
and to burn. Yeah.
But it's arguably why they're in tournament packs as well, because what they do is they close down a bit like. So what we've talked through is you've noticed that several armies have weaknesses. Like we talked about, Stormcast and Nighthawk have weaknesses. Non-wizard armies having weaknesses. In this situation, elite armies having weaknesses. Yeah. A good pick of these tends to spread them out.
Yeah.
Realistically. So if I were that's why you tend to see army packs that are across the board the same.
Yeah.
But it's something to be conscious of and decide. And now we're talking about the most controversial of them. And as we saw, not only from this weekend but also last weekend when we did the coverage, we saw that the minimum that better part of Valor is a scenario, or not a scenario, a battle plan. Thank you. Sorry, that you can lose by just having a poor army list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can lose it before you've made it before you've even had a chance of a turn, if they come across and burn the objectives from underneath you. And really, at the end of the day, that's down to your army list design. The scenario is there, and especially, for instance, in that tournament, people were aware that battle plan was there, and so if they lost, then they were either hoping that they had a suitably good matchup, or else they just weren't. They were knowing that they were weak in that scenario. So you can't. The scenario itself is, I don't know if you can say if it's broken or not, because that it's got those rules that are there, and they can be played around, but you have to have the tools to deal with them. And if you turn up without wizards and you're playing 3 cases of arcane power, well, then you've shot yourself in the foot. If you're turning up with a super elite army, knowing that you probably have got a good chance of facing hordes, and unless you've got something that can kill those hordes in their turn when they're attacking your objectives, then you've probably shot yourself in the foot as well. So
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Like, number one, poor list design is going to mean you're going to lose it. But like we said about 3 places of arcane power, a great example. If your army doesn't have access, Stormcast being the obliquous example, if your army doesn't have access to a horde, like having this inside of a battle plan,
really screws against Stormcast. So again, if you're looking at 3 cases of arcane power, this one, the wizard one from the malign sorcery, the total commitment one where you can't deep strike, all of these are biased against certain army types, and so you've got to, if you're looking at making a very balanced tournament pack, then maybe you look twice before you include them, just because they are biased against certain, heavily biased against certain types of army builds.
Yeah, some of them, and I think you're right, are heavily biased. And if you are going to a tournament, you need to be conscious of that. And sometimes you can't build an army. So ignoring whatever army you actually play, you can't build an army that's going to play all of the battle plans, right? Like, for example, my Chaos Dwarves, I pretty much go, if there's loads of hero-based missions, I'm like, I will just try really hard.
Yeah, well, just hope that you get a matchup where
they're also weak on hero missions. So, and I think...
So, there are some factions that just can't compete in all of them, whereas some have got the tools within their books to be able to compete, they can take elements to compete in all of them.
Yeah, so. I also think maybe the ordering of these sorts of missions is quite interesting as well. Like, for instance, before you get into day 2, where a 5-game tournament where you're starting to get 4 or 5 games happening, where you're getting like people have already won a lot of games, you get a lot more random matches in your first 3 games than you traditionally would. So maybe putting the weaker scenarios earlier on, the scenarios or battle plans that have heavier bias earlier on in a pack or earlier on in the tournament means that you tend to get like random, more polarized armies playing against each other that are just like, oh, you've got crappy wizards like me too, or whatever, So whereas when you're getting towards day 2, although there's a great spread of armies that tend to do quite well at the minute, there are some, like the hero ones, which I think if you're putting them in day 2, everyone's in a bit of a tough spot, because Nagashis are always doing well, Vampire Lords and Zombie Dragons, Flesh Eater Courts, Generals are going to be doing really well. So like you've got like...
They're all going to be fighting each other.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing, realistically. But if you've snuck by with your Gits, like having that on day 2 is a little bit tough. Whereas I think I'd prefer to see more of the progressive objective missions playing the final couple of games. Or I'd like to see maybe the I win, you win sort of game. Maybe even as the final, game. Battle plan. If you were trying to pick one out of all of these different sections. I don't know. I think this is why we're having the discussion, right? Because it's the start of the discussion, and then people hopefully can use this information to maybe hone not only tournament packs but their army list before they go to tournaments, and they're like, "Wow, okay, that's a lot of info." But now you can kind of prioritize them a little bit. Will help you hopefully learn, and sometimes just dodge them. That's the other key advice, right? Is just dodge around, and just go. I'm just going to go for it. Yeah. You got a favourite Twitch chat? And Nathan, has anyone got a favourite?
No, I think it's got to be... I really like Focal Points or Border War. I mean, they favour my army styles, so yeah. Okay. So again, I'd say Focal Points is probably my favourite.
I think Focal Points is probably my favourite as well. Although I do love a good bit of shifting objectives. So again, if you guys didn't join us at the beginning here, the final thing that quickly talk about one more time is those battle plan modes. So if you're organising a tournament or going to a tournament, here's some suggested sets of missions. So Kingmaker mode is fun, so that's all hero ones. Raise and Ruin mode there's 3 where you have to actually win the mission, so that's amazing if you've got 400 players, right? Because that's you could day 2 only one person can win. You're like okay. And then you've got Madness is the mission mode, so maybe for new players or just if you want some craziness.
It's a bit of fun.
And you could add stuff onto that, right? If you wanted Madness as a mission where it's all about random objectives, you could add in everyone has to bring 4 endless spells. You could just have it just everyone's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy fun. And then also Hoard the gold mode, so that's all to do with just sitting on objectives and holding objectives. And what's really interesting, I think, Nath, is it wasn't until I put all these together that I actually looked at it and I thought it's actually really imperative that there's probably a lot more thought goes into... I'm not saying people don't deeply think about what battle plans they're going to use at a tournament. But hopefully, just having looked at this, people will go, actually, I'll just give it a second thought. Because even something as simple as like, Border War versus... not Border War, sorry. The two where it's 4 objectives.
Oh, Blood and Glory and...
We just covered them. Anyway, those two, where it's the same mission, where it's 1 victory point for you and 4 for their objective and 2 in the centre, but they're 2 different deployments, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Even those, you might ask yourself, well, actually, which one of those 2 shall I do? Like, how are the other battle plans?
Yeah, Battle for the Pass and Border War.
Yeah, how are the other battle plans adding on or impacting the others? And have I unproportionally affected a certain army? Which could really be telling into, like, who's winning tournaments, how tournaments being won. Like, it's really worth probably always mentioning inside when we do post-analysis, like which battle plans were played.
Yeah, definitely. The battle plans are cool. Also in team tournaments. So in some team tournaments, when you're doing when you're picking what the matchups are, quite often each match will be playing a different scenario as well. They'll roll for scenarios, and sometimes in team tournaments you'll find that the army you put forward, you're less bothered about what your opponent is putting forward as to what the scenario is, I think. So and that's how much the scenarios are important in the game. If like some armies can't really struggle in some scenarios, so if you're playing a team tournament, you should look more at the scenarios maybe than the actual what the opponent's army is.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I hope you guys have enjoyed that. Like, it's intense, right? And then if you really want to fuck it all up, you can add realms in. All of those in 8 different realms. Fuck.
Or even just in one realm.
Even all of them in one realm is like, will change it up stuff a lot, right?
Yeah.
And it'll be intense.
Just the different realmscape features, yeah.
So, yeah, you're going to want, especially if you're new, you're going to want to think about it. Even me, like, well, not even me, like I'm like some sort of fucking grand wizard, because that's not the case. But, like, I've learned lots from doing this as research for the show, so hopefully that's going to help everyone else as well. These will be up for people to like have access to, and don't forget, just pick up your General's Handbook or your Core Rulebook or Malign Sorcery if you want to play those 2 missions. We should play a game of that, Nate. That sounds fun, especially the Purple Sun one.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then also let us know if anyone, if you're out there and you're thinking, number one, what your favourite battle plan is. Let us know what other battle plans you want to play, like what your spread of 5 would be. Which I think is interesting. Also, if anyone ends up running one of these tournaments with these like modes in effect, because I honestly, how different? Because we're talking about, so you got the balance meta, right, where everyone picks like a sensible set of scenarios, but you've also got the the game would be infinitely more interesting and different just with just choosing the different missions, right? I think that's really cool. But yeah, anyway, anything else to add?
No, that's quite cool. There's so many scenarios now. I'm quite interested in playing the 2 Malign important ones, like you said. I've not played them, so yeah. Cool.
All right. Thank you everyone in the Twitch chat for joining us, and on YouTube. Sorry about the internet dropouts and whatnot. You guys are ace as always. Thank you to everyone on Patreon and Twitch for subscribing. You guys are great. See you later, JJ. See you later, AD Mac. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye, LLV. Don't forget to join us. We've got both the Stat Show and Hobby Show tomorrow on a Tuesday, if you guys are interested, and join us for 40k on Thursday if you like that as well. And then this weekend we'll be doing some Blood Tithe videos and coverage and doing some chats with those guys, and it's not long until we're at Adepticon as well. So you guys have been awesome. Thanks very much. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Let your friends know, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers.